Hey, welcome back to the show. We're keeping it real. Ghost right. Welcome back to Real Take Sports Talk live here on YouTube. Welcome to everyone listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And welcome back to the show, the man of the hour, a Real Take original, Lil Penny, Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, dude?
Oh, well, why are you so quiet?
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not really. I'm ready to talk sports.
Man, you were so loud like 30 seconds ago, and now he's like,
Yeah.
"Hi, hello, my name is Andrew."
I was going off about nurses, and now I'm ready to talk sports.
Well, I hope. Well, if we're going to be talking nurses, there's going to be one nurse we're talking about for sure, and that is Nick Nurse. What the Raptors are doing. They actually traded away Goran Dragic. We'll talk about some trades in the NBA. We'll talk about the NBA trade deadline. We, of course, have to talk about Super Bowl LVI, which stands for 56 if my Roman numerals are correct. I'm pretty sure they are. Super Bowl 56. We'll talk about Kristaps Porzingis and his future in the nation's capital, D.C. We'll talk about the James Harden, Ben Simmons trade, of course, and everything else going on in the wonderfully wild and wacky world of professional sports. Before we get to any of that, though, please do me a big favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Andrew, before we get started, though, I just needed to ask you a question. So far, like, other than the big trades that we've seen and all that stuff, what's something this week that's really stood out to you in sports that's just kind of either made you shake your head or go, oh, wow?
The fact that we might not have an MLB baseball season because damn Manfred is just being stingy, and it's like, oh yeah, like we'll give you a season, but like we'll pretty much we'll start cutting minor league jobs. We'll start take the minor leagues away. It's like why? I don't think we're asking for a lot. We just want a season. That's it.
Oh my God. Imagine this, Andrew. People want to watch baseball. Like, imagine that being such a foreign concept to people. I mean, like, I went on a rant about this last week, and I talked about, the greed that's been involved in this and everything else. But to me, it comes down to one big time thing. And that is the fact that this season, let's say this season gets delayed, right? If this season even gets delayed into, like, let's be optimistic, into May, because at this point it looks like they're not coming to the table. I don't think a deal is going to happen until at least mid-March. So if the season gets delayed into May, then you're looking at the schedule being postponed. You're looking at potentially less games being played. The October Classic might be in November if they want to try to play all the games, which is not going to be good for them or their ratings, because that's when the NFL starts to ramp up. So it's going to hurt baseball regardless, and that is the biggest thing about this. If you care about the sport of pro baseball, and allegedly the Major League Baseball or Major League Baseball does, allegedly the players do, I don't think any of them do. It comes down to money. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And I don't got a problem with players going out and getting their bag. I don't got a problem with all that. But my main problem is the way that Rob Manfred's handled this. Any commissioner, any league, all the owners, all they want to do is use the sports that we love, that are supposed to be part of our communities, in order to make a buck off of us. That's what it's about. Don't get it twisted, people. These owners, Jerry Jones to everyone else, no one cares about you. They care about what you mean for their pocketbook. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And we're learning that firsthand with this. And Andrew, I'm telling you right now, if God forbid there's like a strike season, God forbid the season gets canceled because of a lockout, if that happens, baseball as we know it is going to enter a dark age, even darker than after the 94 strike. It's going to be even worse because, dude, I don't know if you know this, less and less people are interested in baseball. That's why they've had to do so many things to try to make it interesting. But, I mean, that's my tirade on MLB. It's trash what's going on.
I just want baseball. I just want a season. Just to touch on a point what you said real quick, you did mention you're okay with players getting their bag. I am, unless your name is Bobby Bonilla. That's it. That's all I have to say. Proceed.
How much longer is he going to be getting his bag?
Too long. Probably be married. I'll probably be married with, I'll be retired. I might be retired by the time he finally comes off the. I might be retired from work by the time he might come off.
Andrew's going to be on Social Security by the time Bobby Bonilla collects his last paycheck from the Mets.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I don't see an end in sight for that, honestly, dude. I want to be optimistic, but I really don't see an end in sight for that. It's too damn long, dude.
It's okay,
dude. I was like 5. I was like 5, dude. I was like 5 when they gave him that contract, dude. And there's still like, I think like 10 more years on that bitch. Like,
yeah, I think it's like goes into like 2030. Oh man, it's like
still
it's
10 more years on that bitch.
The wild thing is, Andrew, it's like 2022, which that idea of it being 2022 is wild in itself. But we're still a long way away from the Mets being done with Bobby Bonilla Day.
10 more years on that bitch.
Oh my God,
we'll throw a parade. Oh no, we'll throw a parade the day he comes off the books. We'll throw our own parade.
Yeah, damn sure not going to throw one for a World Series anytime soon. Anyway, we'll
find a way to fuck it up.
Yeah, I mean, you did in 2015, right? Anyway, guys, let's keep things moving and talk about our first official topic of the day, and that is, of course, Super Bowl 56. The Los Angeles Rams are your Super Bowl champions. All the bets, all the picks, everything finally paid off in a sweet, sweet victory on some SpongeBob shit because the Los Angeles Rams are now Super Bowl champions. Matthew Stafford wins his first chip. Aaron Donald wins his first chip. Von Miller wins his second chip. And, of course, Cooper Kupp, the MVP of the Super Bowl, won his first chip. Of course, that means that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the Bengals lost. We'll talk about them in just a second. But, Andrew, put this into perspective. With everything that's gone into this season, with everything that's gone in building this team, what does this title mean for the Los Angeles Rams? What does this win mean for their franchise right now?
I mean, dude, it means everything. Like, obviously, they relocated. They had to get out of St. Louis, went out to L.A., kind of rebranded the whole team and everything like that. I forgot. I think McVay was already the coach when they left St. Louis and went to L.A. and everything like that. And it's big, you know. He was. I think he is the youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl, right? Like he was still like, if he didn't win this year, then like that would have went out the window. I think he is the youngest coach to win ever, but it's huge because it just goes to show like that team has been going all in for the past couple of years between, you know, paying Aaron Donald, bringing in Jalen Ramsey, making the going out and making the pick, trading the Jared Goff pick, trading Jared Goff and to bring in Stafford. And then, you know, bringing in the other pieces, the Von Millers, Odell, who, even though he got injured in the Super Bowl, he contributed, you know, when he was on the field and everything. And honestly, I think if he didn't get injured, they win that game by 20 points. Like, I think that Bengals defense was having a hard time slowing down the Rams offense. And I honestly think that had he not gotten hurt, they probably would have ran them off the field. But, you know, it's everything. It means everything to LA because they've been going all in. And, you know, this might make a few other teams rethink a lot of like their strategy because a lot of teams, GMs, owners are very conservative with the way they want to spend money, with the way they want to make trades, the way they want to sign free agents. And, you know, this is the kind of thing where you saw a team, they don't have a draft pick until 2024 or 2025 or something like that, but it doesn't matter because they won the Super Bowl. You got some of these teams that are playing it safe who, you know, even with compiling all the talent, all the assets and everything like that, might not even make it out of the conference. And this is a team that just went to show you go all in, you bring in all the talent, you stockpile all that talent, and you get the right play caller, and you know you can win the whole thing. And that's what they did.
They proved that the Madden style of GMing, I believe his name is Les Snead, the GM, he proved that you can play Madden with real football teams and make it work because that's exactly how this team was constructed. They were already a decent football team. They already been to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff and company. But
they were a playoff team last year, dude.
Exactly. They won a playoff game last year. People forget about that. But the bigger thing is, like, he proved that if you can go out there, you get the best players, you get the best value for your first-round draft picks. And for them, the best value was getting players like Von Miller, getting players like Matthew Stafford, getting all these guys who were maybe seen as too old. Especially Von Miller got a little bit of that. Von Miller, you know, was he worth the draft pick? Apparently, yes, because critical plays were to be made in that Super Bowl, and Von Miller made a few of those critical plays, especially at the end when he sacked Joe Burrow on some key drives. So I mean, this is vindication. Above all, it is vindication because people like me have been saying the one thing about this team, the one thing about everything that's gone into this season, they traded away all these first-round picks. You have to win a Super Bowl. It's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no excuses. You trade away all that capital. You trade away your first overall pick who got you to a Super Bowl. You have to win. If you don't, it will all be an abject failure. And they have avoided that failure. They 100% have. Congratulations to Sean McVay becoming the youngest head coach in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. Congratulations to Matthew Stafford, his coronation as a Super Bowl champion, man. Long overdue. This is a guy who everyone universally in the NFL loves. He's a tough, hard-nosed guy. We all remember that. You remember that thing he did? When was it? It was his rookie year when he got injured in a game against when he was part of the Lions in a game against the Cleveland Browns. NFL Films did a whole thing about it. He broke his arm or whatever. He came back in on the final play, threw a touchdown to win the game with no time left. I mean, things like that not only endear you to your city, but it endears you to the entire NFL community as a whole. And he did that from day one. So it's always good to see him. Cooper Kupp, the guy who everyone was saying was, a decent, number 2 receiver a few years ago, proved his worth. Winning the Super Bowl MVP, winning Offensive Player of the Year, having nearly 2,000 yards receiving, winning the Triple Crown. I mean, best team, biggest moment, biggest win. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
I mean, yeah, dude, you hit it right on the head. And you're right, dude. It just goes to show, when you play that Madden style of GMing and everything like that, it does show you that, because a lot of people, dude, you don't know how many times you see so many teams are so scared to make that big move. They're so scared to, let's go make that big move, sign that big player, trade away this draft pick and everything like that because it might set our organization back and everything like that. But sometimes it's a gamble you have to take, dude. Sometimes that's the gamble you have to take. They're not going to have a first-round pick till I think 2024 or something like that, but
2025.
It doesn't matter. Or 2025 or something like that, dude. But it doesn't matter because they've reached the mountaintop. If they only make the playoffs and get bounced next year because maybe they're not as talented, some guys walk, everything like that, they might not be able to keep this piece, might not be able to keep this piece. It doesn't matter. They got their chip. They did what they, I now I'm sitting over here thinking to myself, talent on my team, obviously I have nothing against Tanny. He has
Ryan
revitalized.
Tannehill.
He has revitalized us, but at this point, I'm sitting up here you know what? I mean, I just watched the Rams go, and Stafford, dude. Stafford's always been talented, dude. Stafford's always been one of the most talented. I think people forget, he was being wasted in Detroit. Stafford was one of those dudes that you forget, just a physical freak, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the entire league. He was just being wasted in that dumpster fire that was Detroit for pretty much his entire career. And you get him out of there, put some real pieces around him, put some competency around him, and you see the kind of player that he could be. I'm sitting over here you know what? My team, we've got the organization, we've got everything established. We could go out, make a trade, and, potentially if we win the Super Bowl next year and don't make the playoffs for the next 10 years, who cares? Who cares? We've never won a Super Bowl.
That chip. It's all about that chip. If you're especially if you're forget about players, we know how much it means to them, right? If you're a fan and your team has never won a Super Bowl, I mean, witnessing that is just such a cool feeling, man. It's like watching your favorite TV show week in, week out, a season in, season out. And then finally, having that big payoff to the thing you cared about the most. If your favorite character, wins or whatever. It's that sense of vindication, that sense of just elation. And one day, Andrew, you'll feel that with one of your teams, I'm sure.
Dude, we're not asking for a dynasty. We're asking for a chip. Look at Kansas City, dude. Kansas City was good this year. Kansas City is not the team. Last year, they were not the team that won the Super Bowl a few years ago. They were not that team. Kansas City went all in, though, that year they won the Super Bowl. They bought in Tyrann Mathieu. Then they started making other trades. I think, was it
Shady?
Yeah, exactly. They bought him in. And then, what was it? This year, they went in and got Melvin Ingram. So, they've been a team that's slowly, they've been going all in. And yes, obviously it has taken a toll because their secondary can't cover nobody. They practically they don't play defense. It's not even they don't play defense, so they don't outscore you.
They got Sorensen. They got a big white dude in the middle of the field who can tackle. That's all he can do. That's all he can do. Can't cover.
Listen, they got that
worth a
chip.
damn.
They got that Super Bowl. They're still a playoff team and everything like that. So, you go all in, you bring in these pieces and everything like that. Some of these guys ain't going nowhere. If you go in and you bring in a 27, a 28-year-old stud, you trade a draft pick, you bring a 27, 28-year-old stud for a 2-3 year run, everything like that. That's 2 to 3 years. You'll be a playoff team. 2 to 3 years, you give yourself an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. And look at Kansas City. They went in the first year, bought in Tyrann Mathieu, bought in those pieces with what they already had, won the Super Bowl. Last year, made the Super Bowl. This year, still AFC Championship and everything like that. So you can still continue to have success even when you go all in like that. And don't be surprised, dude. Don't be surprised if the Rams are back next year, too. Don't be surprised.
Do not be surprised at all. Are they the favorite to win, though? I think it's wide open, especially with Tom Brady being gone. With Tom Brady being gone, anything is possible. Although Tom Brady, who knows? We saw that thing where he said, never say never. And I've learned at this point about sports and life in general, never say never. Never rule anything out. You never know what's going to happen.
Remember Brett Favre? Brett Favre used to retire every week. Brett Favre, literally every. Do you remember there was that one season after every game? Yeah, I think I'm going to call it quits. And then by Wednesday, nope, still playing. And then
freaking
after another loss, you know what?
Jared Allen, Brad Childress, and everyone else had to go to his house and convince him. He's just I guess he's 44 years old, and oh my god. Well, speaking of 44 years old, just you didn't get a chance to do this with me when I did it, but very quickly, Tom Brady. All right, so Tom Brady retired. We know how great he is. There are still some people, apparently, the 3 people on the internet that are saying that well, Tom Brady, he might be the greatest quarterback of all time or whatever, but he's not the greatest player of all time. And to those people, I'm just like, what does that even mean? Are you serious? I understand the Jerry Rice, I could see why people might think that because he was still having great seasons in his 40s, when he turned 40. Tom Brady was 44 years old throwing 40 touchdown passes. So for the people in the way back of the room who might still feel some type of way, both of our teams have been burned by Brady in the past, obviously, but is Tom Brady the greatest player of all time?
Motherfucking Tom Brady, dude. We don't talk about Tom Brady. I think I have a 50 something to nothing loss. Worst loss in franchise history. We suppress.
Big shout out to Kerry Collins for that one.
We suppress those memories. But yeah, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Nah, Tom Brady. I mean, all these other dudes, you could sit here and say GOAT at their position. Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player. Dion Prime is the best DB. All that, but no, it's Brady, dude. He's got the pedigree. He's won the games, everything like that. And then he was even putting up the numbers even after. Dude, how many years has Brady been quote unquote washed? And he still was putting up fucking MVP numbers.
The funny thing is, I read this up, Brady apparently was doing better in his 40s than he was his entire 20s, which is scary. That's scary to me.
Bill Belichick, that's why.
Bill Belichick. Oh my God. It's the biggest thing is you're not supposed to get caught. It's why are all these... Okay, anyway, guys, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever new videos release. Sticking with the Super Bowl for just a quick second, Andrew. Obviously, before I do you have the TV on in your house?
Yeah, want me to mute it?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay. I have money on these games, so...
It's okay, you can turn it down. It's just...
We're good.
Cool. Anyway...
I need Xavier to beat St. John's.
Oh, I mean, hey, Xavier's a good school. Anyway, guys, moving on to our next topic, I should say. The Cincinnati Bengals obviously came up short in Super Bowl LVI, Super Bowl 56. They were not able to win. Joe Burrow and Joe Shiesty, Jamar Chase were not able to bring home the championship to Cincinnati. Again, a team that's never won it. Andrew, I'm sure you can relate to that as far as feelings of wanting a ring and never getting one, wanting a title and never getting one.
Mm-hmm.
What does this loss mean for Cincinnati moving forward? Do you think this is something that's going to like maybe strengthen their resolve, and maybe a few years from now they'll be back here in this position? Or do you think, in that tough AFC North, this might have been their shot?
See, that's the thing is, yeah, the AFC North is tough, obviously, because despite the fact that the AFC North, listen, it might look like it's going to be down. Cleveland has the most talented roster in the entire league outside of the quarterback. Tomlin somehow can't, it's impossible for that man to have a losing season. So there's that. And then the Ravens, when Lamar comes back, should be the favorite to win that division, even though Joe Burrow, did establish himself as one of the best young, if not, fringe elite quarterbacks in the entire NFL. But, there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration too. There's the, you ever hear of the Super Bowl runner-up hangover? We saw it this year with Kansas City, where you lose the Super Bowl and then you start out slow, don't really, make that noise and everything like that. It's like Kansas City did come along later on, but they also had a lot of help because they had a very weak schedule later on in the season, and they did kind of get it together. But notice how they picked it up later on in the season. Cincinnati's built differently. Cincinnati has young studs, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, everything like that, with Joe Burrow. But, they have to, first of all, they got to go out. They got to protect Joe Burrow. Quentin Spain has to shut the fuck up, stop coming at the Titans because, if he would have been better, we would have kept him, number one. Eli Apple is another one. Shut the fuck up, because you literally got burned on the two plays that pretty much, decided the Super Bowl. So there's also that. And I root for my Ohio State guys, but Eli Apple, dude, you had to root against him, because if he won that game, he was not going to shut the fuck up the entire offseason. And I've never seen a bunch of professionals across all sports, across an entire league, all those check marks, just collectively just being like, we fucking hate this dude. We're going to bury this fucking dude. The minute he fails, we are going to let him hear it and everything like that. So there is also that. But to answer your question, Cincinnati, I think they're going to be good. I do think they have a chance to get back next year, though. I mean, just given what we've seen from the Super Bowl runner-ups in all the past years and everything like that, and their division is not exactly the easy. They're not exactly in the AFC East. They're not exactly in that division. So it's going to be an uphill battle. I think they're going to be a good team. Maybe they might be a wild card team next year. But I wouldn't also be surprised if they miss the playoffs. Like, they have to get the O-line. They have to get all that stuff figured out. They might have to, I think, pay some dudes on defense. I don't know what their contract situation is looking like. I know they made some moves and brought in some defensive players in the offseason, but it's going to be an uphill battle. And, they got exposed. They got exposed in the Tennessee game. We gave them the game. And then they also got exposed here in the Super Bowl. So biggest thing for them is they got to fix that offensive line, because if Joe Burrow goes down, we've seen that movie before. Joe Burrow goes down, they're fucked. Like, Joe Burrow can do things that their backup can't. Not many quarterbacks can do. So that's my take on Cincinnati. Hell of a run, though. You're muted.
One of the funnest runs, honestly, I've seen in sports, in a while. I mean, trust me, it's no Washington Nationals winning the World Series in 2019. Like, that was just historic. Roll Tide. But in all honesty, I mean, I think they'll be back. I don't think they're going to be back next year, though. I think they're going to have to take that next year off. I think there are a lot of other teams that are going to be the AFC is the Western Conference of the NFL. That is, they're all the best team. There's too many good teams in the AFC, and I genuinely think that the AFC North, especially, they're like, the Steelers might not be as good as they've been, but the Browns are going to come back with a fury, and the Ravens, you bet your ass, they're going to come back with a fury. With all the players they're getting back healthy, with all the players they're getting back healthy, with the moves, Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh, they don't mess around in the draft. They don't mess around in free agency. If there's a guy to be got, they're going to get him. So it's going to be harder. It's going to be a harder road through the AFC North for the Bengals for sure. That doesn't mean they're completely eliminated from even winning the division, but it's not going to be springs and roses. They got away lucky this year because they were playing Big Ben, who was a shell of himself. They were playing a Steelers team that outside of TJ Watt wasn't good. The Browns were a joke, and top to bottom a joke, underperforming. The Ravens were just dead for most of the season. I mean, it is, they got away really lucky. If they can do it again next year against those teams, then we're talking about there might be the class of the entire NFL. But
well, don't forget, look at their schedule too. They also this season they lucked out because they were so bad the year before. They were given, they played Jacksonville. Even though they lost, they played the Jets. They were playing like the weakest team from every AFC division on top of their own division, which for the first time in a long time was down. So you take stuff like that into consideration. They're getting a first place schedule. Like they're going to play us. They got Kansas City. They're playing Buffalo. They're going to get those teams. They're going to get the other teams, whoever else is going to be on their schedule. They're not going to get that cupcake schedule they had that allowed them to win these games this year. They're not getting that.
Nah, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a cakewalk by any means.
Got a big boy schedule now. Welcome.
Welcome. Guys, welcome to this show. If you're just joining us, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Andrew, let's move on and talk about the NBA, something that you are very, very well equipped to talk about because I don't know if you guys heard, the NBA trade deadline came and passed and nothing happened. Andrew, right? Not anything big happened at all. There's not even anything to talk about here, really.
Not really.
Oh, wait. I lied, I cheat, and I steal on some Eddie Guerrero shit because there were some big-time moves in the NBA. The biggest of them all was the trade that went down between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. Here's the trade so you all can see it. The Nets traded away James Harden and Paul Millsap and to the 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round picks. Andrew, I mean, this when we had heard rumblings that James Harden was unhappy, we'd seen for ourselves that he just quit on the team in a game previously, but to have something come together this fast, I think was, astonishing. It shows you how willing the Nets were to just move on. They were locked in. We need to get rid of this guy. But what do you think about this trade? Which team right now is in a better position to win it all this year?
Between the Nets and Philly?
Yep.
After what I watched last night, a fucking beatdown. It's very tough for me it's very tough. I understand Boston has been on a win streak, but they lost by damn near 50. Brooklyn, the wild card has always been Kyrie, dude. Even when they brought in James Harden, the wild card, KD is going to do KD. The wild card is Kyrie. So I think the team that's better equipped as of right now would be Brooklyn, just given what they acquired. They got Andre Drummond, who I wanted last year, but the Knicks were like, no, we're not going to go get Andre Drummond. It's like, okay, and then you watch what fucking Capella did to us in the playoffs. It's like Andre Drummond literally would have neutralized all that, but moot point. Yeah, I have to say it's Brooklyn. Ben Simmons, even though Ben Simmons, he's a good defender, occasionally he'll disappear on offense where Trae Young can guard him in the post. He'll have moments like that, but I just think, they have the firepower with KD, and if Kyrie is actually able to play, they'll give Milwaukee a run for their money because to me, the class of the East is still Milwaukee, and until somebody takes it away from them, it's Milwaukee is my pick to come out of the East. Yeah,
I echo your sentiments. Just it's Milwaukee's conference to lose, if we're being honest. Like they are going to be representing the Eastern Conference in the finals. I think that's just a foregone conclusion at this point. The only thing that I think could potentially have stopped that is if Kyrie Irving would be available for the playoffs. That would have thrown, I think, a monkey wrench into the Bucks' plans. But that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen the way everything's going right now, and I'm not going to get into the politics or the laws of it all. The truth of the matter is Kyrie Irving is not going to be available for home games moving forward, and that amounts to, I think, 8 games left on the season he's going to be available for, and this is right as the Nets are going on a really bad losing streak. They've lost, 10 in a row at this point? Things are looking bad. The Nets are the Nets, if they don't put their act together, if they don't get their stuff together pretty soon, they could be in a space where they're going to be in the play-in tournament, which is not something that I think anybody wanted them to be. That's definitely not somewhere where they wanted to be, and I just don't know if they'll have it. The only good thing you can say about the Philadelphia 76ers is hopefully getting some shooting is going to make this team better than they were last year. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not trying to pile on to Ben Simmons. I know there's a lot of people who are saying that you can't say anything critical about Ben Simmons' shooting because of whatever reason, right? But it's true. Ben Simmons can't shoot the ball. We haven't seen him this year. I hope he's gotten better because that would mean the Nets have just run away with this. Actually, I don't hope he's gotten better. I'm a Cavs fan. My team actually has a chance this year. But regardless of that, I mean, as far as who won this trade, this is one of those situations where it's so volatile, right, Andrew? It's so volatile with Harden and what he's been through over the past few years with demanding the trade, actually not getting along with Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul getting traded away, and then not getting along with Russell Westbrook, and then him getting traded over to Brooklyn, and then, not getting along with the coaching staff or whatever it was. It just doesn't seem to work. My only question is, how much longer until, he says, Joel Embiid, this guy, I'm not feeling it. And then, whatever, LA becomes his next first choice, right? Because he said that in the press conference. I mean, I don't know. I'm very skeptical about the James Harden thing at this point. It immediately makes them a better offense, but I don't know what that really does for them as far as team chemistry or what have you. I'm going to say the Nets for now because now I think KD and Kyrie can become more to the focus on the offense. You get a guy like Steph Curry, who I think is the most underrated guy in this trade. That dude is a machine. He can when he gets hot, especially when he's the pressure's off of him, and he got guys like KD to take the pressure off of him. I think he can do wonders for that Nets team. I'll say the Nets with an asterisk. We'll have to see what happens, obviously, but I'm going to go with the Nets for now.
I have to also, but upon looking at the current score right now, they are playing my New York Knicks, and they are down 31-18 in the first quarter.
Look,
so and literally our franchise player is not playing, hasn't played the last few games, so that's not a good look. They might end up winning the game anyway because the Knicks have been very good at giving games away, but not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of gets into my next question, and this is more so about the Nets long term, right? And kind of looking back at what they were, right? So the Brooklyn Nets, the idea of the Brooklyn Nets when Kyrie and KD came over, right? It was to build a super team that was going to last and become similar to that LeBron James Miami team, right? Like the one that went to multiple finals, the one that, just was dominant over the NBA. Everyone knew they were going to go to the finals every year. But it looks like, right? It looks like they've kind of just become a bit of a sideshow at this point. Like, genuinely, they become a sideshow. Because I get it, the first year, KD's injured, Kyrie's kind of by himself. All right. Doesn't even count. And then last year happens, right? And what happens? You got the issues with Kyrie Irving going away from the team, not being communicative about it. And then, the injuries, what have you. KD one toe away from going to the finals, but it didn't happen. This year, the circus behind Kyrie, the circus behind James Harden, and KD just looking like I don't know. Did you see that NBA on TNT, that draft they did for the All-Star game, where KD, you could see, like, I've never seen someone so done, just so absolutely done with everything around him than KD was in that moment, because he didn't even want to joke about it. He didn't pick James Harden. He just said, I want to move forward with the guys you got now. But he didn't say it in an inspiring way. He was just like, man, I don't care at this point. That's what it seemed like to me. But what do you think about that?
He gave that big speech, too. He was like, we need size and everything like that. And then you could even see on LeBron's face. Like, LeBron had to cover his face because he knew, like, oh, this dude he's being petty as hell right now. And, I don't blame him, though. That's how KD is. That's how KD was. He's a very sensitive dude, Hey, It is what it is. But yeah, dude. I mean, but you know what? I get where he's coming from though, because given James Harden's track record, I mean, I forgot it might have been Barkley. Somebody called James Harden out on this shit years
They
ago.
did.
Or
I mean, Barkley did it on the show too, where he said, where he's like, LeBron asked, "Is James Harden even available? Isn't he injured?" He's like, "Oh, he just got traded. He's not going to be injured anymore." like I was like, "Oh," and then even KD had to laugh at that.
But when you look at his track record, dude, it's like he gets traded out of OKC, becomes the guy in Houston. I don't know if he necessarily wanted to be the guy, but he got traded because more or less Oklahoma City was not going to pay him. Fair enough. Then he gets there and tells the GM, I want Dwight Howard. He goes and gets him Dwight Howard. That's not enough. Then he says, I want shooters. Gets rid of Dwight Howard. I want shooters. Goes and gets him all these shooters. He goes, I want Clint Capella. Drafts Clint Capella. Develop Capella, everything like that. Then trades Capella. I want more shooters. Oh, no. Then, you know what? This isn't working out. I want Chris Paul. I think first he goes, give me Russell Westbrook. I think the first thing he did was he was like, no, they traded Paul for Westbrook, right? So the first thing he did was, I want Chris Paul. And then they got him Chris Paul. And then that didn't work. So he was like, no, go get me Russell Westbrook. And they got him Russell Westbrook. And that didn't work. So, and then after a while, he just said, you know what? Like after he pretty much ran that Houston Rockets organization into the ground with all his demands, he goes, you know what? Screw it. Trade me. Send me somewhere where I'm going to win. And then what did he do? He kicked and screamed and pouted, and he banged his head on the floor until blood came out of his ears, and he was like, I'm not going to play, and forced his way out of Brooklyn and to Philly. It's going to be the same shit. It's going to be the same
Philly,
shit.
Philly, he gets to Philly. There's this like clip of him being like, Philly was my first choice. And I'm just like, all right. Yeah, really? Really?
Yeah,
really? Philly was your first choice? Really? Like, Philly wasn't even in play when that trade went down. Like, come on. Like, I mean, it whatever, right? Maybe he wanted to go to Philly. Like, of course, hey, who wouldn't want to go play with Joel Embiid, right? But, I mean, it is just, I just feel like at this point with Harden especially, it's a track record. And I don't want to say that he's an unreliable player. He is not an unreliable player because when he plays, he can score. He can score, and he proved that he can run the point too. But what I will say is, long term, he's an unreliable teammate, and I think that is like going to be the biggest mark against him for his career because every big time teammate he's played against, he has either run out of town or he's just been so toxic that he had to run himself out of town. Like it's just baffling to me that he could not, of all the players, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you have the final word on this, but of all the players that you can't get along with Kevin Durant, the guy who is literally, I don't understand the patience that Kevin Durant has. Like, honestly, I don't know who else has that level of patience in the entire world. This man, like, deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for keeping his own, like, sanity and peace, dealing with all this crap that he deals with professionally on and off the basketball court. I mean, it is just, I honestly can't believe that James Harden couldn't make it work with KD twice.
Bro, Kevin Durant, like, everyone wants to shit on him, dude. This man had success with Russell Westbrook. Nobody else in the league has been able to do that or say that, dude. Nobody else. This dude literally had success with Russell Westbrook.
It's so true, though. Like, I mean, I love Westbrook, right? But, I mean, like, even, like, in the Lakers, like, they're whatever. Like, it is, I can't believe it, though. James Harden, how does James Harden just, whatever. I mean,
he's a diva.
He's what you think Odell Beckham Jr. is. Genuinely. I think he is what you think Odell is. If that makes sense to you.
Nah, Odell is Nick Young to me.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad then.
No, that's not good. That's not good. But
hey, so
Nick Young had elite potential that he just wasted. He blames the Wizards. He blames the Wizards, and he blames Gilbert Arenas, his vet. But he's an adult. He's partially to blame.
Well, speaking of players, Andrew, who could not get along with players, apparently, I mean, this is another thing that just baffles me. Kristaps Porzingis was traded, and I know you have a lot on your mind about this, but it was kind of part of this bigger picture kind of thing with the Washington Wizards, right? But let's stick with Porzingis for a second, right? So Kristaps Porzingis was traded away from Dallas, and this was after just 3 years of futility. Not even gonna lie. After 3 years of futility, Kristaps Porzingis finally made his exodus from Dallas. It is no secret that him and Luka apparently did not get along. It's no secret that Kristaps Porzingis was the unicorn, and he embodied that because half the time he was not available, so you didn't see him. Thank you, Tim Legler. But I mean, it's crazy because when this trade went down a few years ago, there were a lot of people, myself included, who thought, oh, wow, the Mavs actually have a chance here to do something very special, to build something long-lasting. That's down. That's gone. So Porzingis is gone. He's going to the Wizards. Dinwiddie comes in. We'll get to what this means for Dallas. But, Andrew, I need to ask you, what went wrong for Porzingis in Dallas specifically?
I don't know. I, 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 I don't know. Like, he barely ever played. He was always hurt. When he did play, he'd put up like a Lonzo Ball triple single stat line. He's the tallest dude on the court. He's getting out rebounded sometimes by guards. He has games some nights where it's like you're literally the tallest dude on the court, and yet your stat line is like 6 points. You're like two of 12 from the field or something like that. Guards are out rebounding you. You're not going to get assists, obviously. That's Luka, and it's like. And then you had the balls to, sit there and talk shit about the Knicks and everything like that. And it's karma because I actually remember ever since that trade, I don't know. We have a very good winning percentage against Dallas since that trade, by the way. Like, I don't know if we might be undefeated. We're not undefeated, but I'm pretty sure we might only have like 1 or 2 losses in the span of like the 4 years since that trade went down. So, I mean, I think he's another one, dude. His next stop, when it doesn't work out, because it's not going to work out in Washington, his next stop is going to be LA, dude. His next stop is going to be out there with the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest thing with Porzingis, the reason why this didn't work out was Porzingis was brought in to be the guy who could take pressure off of Luka Doncic in big moments. He was brought in to be the guy, can he give me 20 and 10 off as the second guy on this team? Can he fill that Robin to the Batman that is Luka? If he could fill that role, well, it would have been great. It would have been a great partnership. But I think that this didn't work for 2 reasons. One, I think Porzingis just was unable to fill that role. And it's because of injuries. It's because of attitude. It's because of, I also think, a little bit of just spite. I genuinely think there was a bit of spite there because Luka, he got there when Luka was kind of like, Luka had just won Rookie of the Year. People were like, oh, man, this kid is really good. And then all of a sudden, Luka just becomes this dominant superstar, like MVP level superstar that Porzingis, in all due respect, will never achieve that level of stardom. He will never achieve that level of talent on the basketball court. And there was a little bit of spite there. And that kind of went into with the attitude, the fact that he wasn't playing well at a lot of times, especially in the playoffs. In the playoffs, it was just, he disappeared. When Dallas needed him, he's like the Avatar. He's like Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. When Dallas needed him most, he vanished. And he went away for 100 years in a block of ice with his giant bison, never to return again. It's insane that this didn't work, because if he had understood his role, I think it could have. I'm not blaming him for injuries. I'm not blaming him for maybe some of the schemes that Rick Carlisle was doing, because those weren't like perfect scheming. It wasn't perfect scheming all the time. Rick Carlisle, they should have been making sure that he took pressure off of Luka throughout the season. They should have made sure that these two could play on the court at the same time throughout the season. Instead, they would always split them up, which was so weird to me because you're going to need your best players playing together when the moment counts. You might as well get them used to it. And whenever the playoffs came around, it just seemed like, okay, Porzingis, you're a non-factor in this. It just ended up being Luka playing Luka ball and having to score 60 points a game, whatever he was doing, 60, 10, and 15, all that crap he was doing against the Clippers, and then trying to will his team to a win. It just didn't work, and I think it kind of proved you guys right. I think it proved a lot of Knicks fans right about Luka Porzingis, I should say, and what he really was this whole time.
Yeah, I mean, injury prone, exceptional talent, everything like that. But, what good is talent if it's not, on the court, if you can't, use it. So, hey, there was a video of him shooting from the bench or behind the bench in Washington, you know what? And frankly, I agree. He got so used to sitting on that thing, so used to sitting out there that he figures I'll shoot from out there. And it is what it is. Wish him good luck in Washington, though. Wiz got a squad. The Wiz do have a squad. Kyle Kuzma has been low key this year from time to time.
I mean, Kyle Kuzma's a very solid player. I don't understand why people were saying that he sucked. I never understood that.
Because they still think that this is LA Laker, stand in the corner and just shoot 3 threes a game because you play with LeBron. They still think that's that Kyle Kuzma. They don't realize this is you're going to get your 10 to 15 shots a game because you're the guy, Kyle Kuzma.
That's fair. You know what else is fair? You guys, if you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. We got daily videos on the NBA, the MLB, and much more. www.youtube.com/Real Take Sports. Speaking of the Wizards, Andrew, the Wizards cleaned house in a big way, in an absolutely massive way, by getting rid of most outside of Kyle Kuzma, everyone who mattered on that team. But let's talk about it. So the Washington Wizards made a number of key trades at the trade deadline. Arrivals, we have Kristaps Porzingis, Vernon Carey, Ish Smith. Departure, Spencer Dinwiddie, which I think was a big loss for them. And, of course, the biggest loss, you could argue, Montrezl Harrell. This also coming at the same time where Bradley Beal he's been shut down for the rest of the season with an injury, and himself and the Wizards have been talking about his future, and that's basically code at this point for it looks like Bradley Beal is going to be gone relatively soon. Andrew, what do these moves mean for the Wizards, and where do they go from here?
The Wizards are in a weird spot because I feel like, I think they're in last place, either second to last or in last place in that division. They're on the outside looking in, but I do think that they were trying to make a potential run at the play-in tournament, or maybe like one of those, they're not going to get a top 4, but potentially that 5 or 6 seed, given how much time is left in the season. But this thing was more about Dallas. That's why Dallas went out. Dallas wanted to shore up. Dallas wanted to get another guy, proven scorer. That's why they went out and got Dinwiddie. They wanted to go out and get a dog, which is what you're getting in Montrezl Harrell. Montrezl Harrell is the kind of dude where he's not going to demand the ball. He's not, sitting there saying, give me the ball so I could shoot. He's the kind of dude saying, nah, you shoot. I want these rebounds. And you need guys like that on your team. So the direction that the Wizards are in. The Wizards are what else is new? They're in a very weird spot right now because despite the fact, it doesn't help with the Bradley Beal getting shut down for the rest of the year. They're in a really weird spot because, do I think that Kyle Kuzma can carry them? Short term, maybe, but for the long term, they might get one of those, between 10 to 7. But I think that's what they're aiming for at this point. They're just, maybe get into the dance. And if not, they set themselves up. They did bring in Vernon Carey, who's young. Ish Smith is somebody who they're also very familiar with. He's been a journeyman. I think he has been in Washington before. But they're banking on Porzingis. They're banking on the talent. They're banking on the fact that, even though he can't be on the field, they're taking the approach where, hey, you know what? When you are on the court, you are capable of this. Now their whole thing is just let's get you on the court and then keep you on the court. So that's the approach the Wizards are taking.
They're banking on a broke ass bank because I don't see Kristaps Porzingis being the thing that's going to put lifeblood, the new energy into this team. Losing Montrezl Harrell was the biggest thing that stood out to me, and I really do think that it is signaling the changing of the guard. Because Montrezl Harrell wasn't a guy who was, he wasn't like the best player on the team, right? But he arguably was the most important because he was a guy who was a bit of a locker room guy. He was a guy who was going to give that veteran leadership. And what this is telling me is the Wizards are either expecting Kristaps Porzingis to step up and become the next leader of this team, which I don't see that happening, but or they're going to move into a direction where it's more so of a rebuild, something that they've honestly been putting off for too long. They've been putting off this rebuild for almost 7 years. Like literally, I think you and I were talking about this our freshman year of college, how, man, John Wall and all these guys, Bradley Beal, it's just not working. Whatever it is, it's just not working. I think they're in a similar situation. They were, I should say, in a similar situation that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum won, where these are two really good players. One of them great, right? But together on that team, the way it's constructed, it's just not going to work. And I think finally, after all those years, they're going to listen to Simon's advice. You remember Simon's song that he sung to us that one time? It's like, Bradley Beal, don't play him. He don't want to be played. Don't play him. He don't want to be played. Just trade him. He don't want to be played. Just trade him. That's what they're going to do. They got to do it. It's for the betterment of the team. Get what you can. Do a full rebuild. Whatever. You got to take Kristaps Porzingis' salary. All right, whatever. But they have to go in that direction. It's just what's better for the franchise. It just didn't work. They need to accept that it didn't work and move on. Genuinely, because I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's a lot of Wizards fans who are going to tell me that, if they do this and that, I'm like, no, it's not even like the Knicks. The Knicks have a light in RJ Barrett. They have this guy who is just a budding superstar who's going to take them to the next level one day. But with this team, I don't get me wrong, I like Ish Smith. I like Kyle Kuzma, but they're not that guy. And they're going to need that guy, and the only way they're going to get him anytime soon is through the draft. So, my advice to the Wizards, tank. Tank like your life depends on it. Because if you're a GM there, if you're a coach there, you're damn right it does. Your livelihood does, anyway.
Pretty much. I mean, at this point, that's kind of what the Wizards have to do. I mean, the whole Bradley Beal thing, how many years now has he been shut down because of injury? I mean, at this point, just maybe move on. They already moved on from John Wall years ago. Move on for Bradley Beal. We saw Portland. Portland broke it up. Portland finally said, you know what? Hey, it's just, we got these two stud guards, but, it's just not working. But Portland also made sure they had another one in Anthony Simons. They already made sure they had another one, already in the waiting to take over for CJ. So, I mean, I guess maybe that's what the Wizards could look for. The Wizards got to draft. They got to start hitting on some of these draft picks, though. I mean, it's very
Jan Vesely, baby. Jan Vesely.
Drafting is so it's a lost. It's something that, we look at it as the big names, which this player was this, which player is going to help this team, which player can come in, which player can become a superstar and everything like that. But it's listen, the way that some of the San Antonio, for example, they had their dynasty and everything like that. Obviously, yes, they did have the number one draft pick in Tim Duncan. Look at everybody else on those rosters, though, dude. Second round pick turns into a Hall of Famer. Second round pick turns into a Hall of Famer. They undrafted dudes turn into Hall of Famers on that team. So it's you gotta, after a while, that's what when you're a small market like that, you gotta draft well, because you draft well, you establish. Look at Phoenix, dude. Look at what Phoenix did. Everyone clowned Phoenix for so long, and Devin Booker and all this, they struck gold with Devin Booker, had the number one pick, struck gold with DeAndre Ayton, brought in the Cam Johnsons. They brought in, and then after they, became one of those teams, they go, now we just need a legitimate point guard, a proven leader, a, first ballot dude that can still do it, that's going to put us over the top and get us there. That's what they did and went out and got Chris Paul. That's something the Wizards got to do. They got to draft well. They have to, and I know it's easier said than done and everything like that. And, I could talk because we actually, for the first time in a long time, have a fucking front office that can, find studs in the second round, like Mitchell Robinson and guys like that. But that's what the Wizards got to do. It's a lot of people make a big deal when it comes to the draft. It's all about, which one's going to get drafted number one, which one's going to get drafted number two, which one. Nah, it's you want consistency. If you want to really be that team and you want to really, establish your foundation with talent and with a culture, it's all about, yes, the high draft picks. Those are obviously talented key guys, but, 15 through 60, those are where you're going to find the dude that's going to, win you the chip. 1 through 14, you'll find a franchise cornerstone 1 through 14. You could find one 15 to 60, but those guys you draft 15 to 60, if you hit on those more times than not, you're going to be successful. So that's what they have to do.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Guys, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We wish the Washington Wizards nothing but success, especially me, because they are the closest basketball team to me, and I kind of want to see them do well. I would like to go to a game that matters. Although, I'm not going to lie, those Cavs-Wizards tickets, that was some cheap tickets. It's really cheap to see my team in D.C. Guys, so let me know in the chat where your favorite team is from. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We got Cincy Edits in the chat saying, L Rams. I'm so sorry for that Super Bowl loss. Although I had nothing to do with it. Actually, I'm not really sorry. Sucks to be you, right, Cincy? But welcome back to the chat. It's always good to see you. Let's move on, Andrew. Let's shift a little bit away from basketball. We'll come back and talk about basketball in just a little bit. But we got some big news out of Major League Baseball. Your former guy, Matt Harvey, is in some hot water, Drew. You want to talk about this?
No. His fall from grace, just his original fall from grace, it was too much for me. I was the big Dark Knight fan. I don't want to. No, it's well, already. Guess what? I feel like I'd just be adding fuel to the fire.
That's why we're here, and because we're gonna talk about him. Hey, man, if Matt Harvey cannot find a team willing to sign him, he could immediately be suspended. Or sorry, if he can find a team. Even if Matt Harvey finds a team that's willing to sign him, he's probably going to be suspended for at least 60 days after saying on the record that he provided opioids to Tyler Skaggs on several occasions. He told Major League Baseball officials, this is just, it's not even something you want to make fun of, obviously. It's not something you want to make fun of. This is like a very sad scenario. Tyler Skaggs, for those of you who don't know, former Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher, former Los Angeles Angels pitcher as well, who died after overdosing in his hotel room, I believe. And it is just very sad to hear this. Harvey's admission in federal court on Tuesday qualifies as distribution under MLB's drug policy. And Harvey's currently a free agent, obviously, would be able to appeal the suspension. I don't think he should. Here's a quote from the MLB on this. Quote, once the trial is complete, MLB will conduct a comprehensive review of the potential violations and our drug program. We talked about Tyler Skaggs and what he represents and all that stuff before. And this admission from Matt Harvey, it's weird because it's haunting on one level, but it's also just unbelievable that this could happen. But what do you got to say?
I mean, I love Harvey as a baseball player and everything like that. He obviously fell from grace. He went from the Mets, somehow I think ended up in Anaheim. Recently, he was in Baltimore, which nothing for nothing, dude. But once you end up with the Baltimore Orioles, I mean, that's the equivalent of just you guys having to sign with the Jets. It's just sad. And then to hear this, I mean, everything like that, his name was kind of already tarnished given his fall as a baseball player. This off the field stuff and everything like that. Like the Tyler Skaggs thing was a big deal. Like when that news broke, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And for this to come out and to him to be that closely, directly related to it, it's not a good look and everything like that. And I hope for the best for Matt Harvey, but I mean, it's not looking good for my dude. It's really not looking good for my dude.
Yeah, I mean the legal ramifications of this aside, I mean like, and that's like probably the biggest thing. I mean the legal and ethical stuff that's coming out of this. I mean, and we don't know whether it was, I don't think it was Matt Harvey who provided the stuff that he ended up dying with. But I mean, still, it is just haunting, man. Like that's the only word that comes to mind when I think about this. It's just haunting because the Skaggs thing, like you said, was so big when Tyler Skaggs died. It sent shockwaves throughout the entire baseball world because it happened basically on the team's watch. It happened on the team's watch, and apparently no one knew that this was happening, which is such bullshit. Because I understand that I'm sure there were people who obviously didn't know it, right, Andrew? I'm sure there were people who didn't know that this was a thing, but at the same time, the fact that there was at least one player who was in Major League Baseball who was part of distributing opioids to other players, and Skaggs is the one we know. We don't know, and I'm not saying he did or didn't, but we don't know who else is out there doing this kind of stuff. It just proves to you, man, that somewhere or another, like these drug programs, these drug tests that these players go through, we all know we all know they're bullshit. Like genuinely. We all know that, like, forget steroids, but like we all know it's all just for show. I mean, it's baffling to me. Pat McAfee literally admits, right, on his show every day that, like, yeah, dude, I smoke weed and there's ways to get out of drug tests and blah blah. He like half of his show half the time is just him talking about how he eluded drug testing in the NFL and how easy it was at some points, right? And it goes for other major league sports as well. I mean, they need to look, and I'm not saying don't do it. Like weed is just like that. They shouldn't be testing for that anyway, because I'd rather have players smoking weed than actually like putting like harmful opioids and all that other stuff in their bodies, right? Like painkillers. Like no, you can get addicted to that stuff.
I mean, some could argue the cocaine. Some could argue that made Lawrence Taylor better on the field.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, okay, but I mean, not off the field though. Definitely not off the field. But but just to put a bow on it, I mean, it is just the MLB, the NBA, the NFL. They really need to rethink this kind of stuff, man. And you're right, Matt Harvey is a fall from grace, and not a lot of people are gonna look at him the same. And it's because, and again, it's not that he killed him, but the fact that he was involved in some way in distributing drugs to Tyler Skaggs, it's going to be a big asterisk on his name for the rest of his career as far as baseball fans go. Assuming he has.
It's a shame, too. I mean, it really is a shame. It might be done at this point. How old is Harvey? I think Harvey's pushing 32. He's not exactly the youngest of guys and everything like that. And just given his track record, his fall from grace, I mean, this is around the age where players, it's either like, if they're still serviceable, they could latch on to a good team if they're still serviceable. He hasn't really been, the player that he once was. He has been a shell. He hasn't even been a shell of the player he once was. Like the numbers have not, been that great. So, I mean, and then just given this and everything like that, it might be it. Like this might be it. It might just be time for him to call it quits. He had a very good start to his career. Kind of came out of nowhere, fell from grace, and then this just kind of made it worse. Like this could be his. That's how he's gonna go out. It's a shame because one of my favorite players, especially when we had him, dude. Dude was a stud. It's a shame, dude.
It's unfortunately the way things go. You can only hope for the best for everyone involved. We got a few chats here. Since he edits in the chat says MLB ain't never gonna come back. It feels like MLB ain't never gonna come back. So him being suspended ain't gonna matter. I mean, that's very possible. Oh, your thing is trippy. Your like background is trippy.
Yeah.
You're like a floating head half the time.
Oh, this is just on a different note. Did you hear Tyreek Evans got reinstated the other day?
I remember him getting suspended. But that was like years ago. Wait, when did he get suspended?
He got suspended like 3 years ago. And I think as of like either yesterday or Monday, he is no longer suspended. He is free to sign as of tomorrow with an NBA team.
He was
be on the
banned
Lakers
for 2 years. He was banned for 2 years. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Wow. Oh my god. Tyreek Evans. That's a name that like
Another one.
just absolutely slipped my mind for years. I was like, the second he got suspended from the NBA, I was just like, oh, all right, cool, boom, done. Like you're out of my like my brain needs to make room for more players.
Because he was supposed to be like the guy. Like he was like the Sacramento Kings dude. He was supposed to be like the guy. Like they have De'Aaron Fox now. He was supposed to be De'Aaron Fox for that team before De'Aaron Fox. But now they have De'Aaron Fox. And the Kings are another one, dude. Sacramento. Well, I really want to see that team make the playoffs just because 2006 was the last time they made the playoffs. They played the Spurs in the first round. I feel like small markets like that in the playoffs, like that playoff atmosphere, that home playoff atmosphere will probably be electric because it's a small market and they literally have like, I guess, however many people in Sacramento actually root for the Kings behind them.
I mean, well, you saw what happened last year. I mean, the reason I love like these not like LA, New York teams winning is because, dude, like the joy is so real on the face of the fans. Like, remember when Toronto won it? And I know that's not, you can't really call the Raptors' market a small market because it's an entire country of like whatever million people.
Some could argue that's the biggest market in basketball.
I think you could argue it's true.
Yeah.
It is the biggest market in basketball. But I mean, even then, but they're like a less notorious market. Like everyone thinks big market, New York, Miami, and LA, right? Those are the big market teams. Then you might get like, okay, someone will put like Chicago in there as well. Okay?
Houston, maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
What are the Rockets gonna do they without Hakeem? Anyway, but my point is, like, seeing the Bucks win, seeing teams you don't see win, markets you don't see an emphasis put on, because like I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro. Giannis might be one of, if not the best player of this current crop of this current generation. But the reason we don't talk about him as much as we probably should, and the reason we don't talk about his dominance, is because he's in Milwaukee. Because you know damn well, if Giannis was playing for the Clippers in LA, whole different story. Clippers would be ruling the media narrative. You know damn well if he was in New York playing for your Knicks or playing for the Brooklyn Nets, oh my God, it's Giannis talk. What's Giannis doing? Where's Giannis at? Why is he doing this? You'll have Giannis haters because that's all the media would want to talk about. But he's in Milwaukee, so you only hear about him when he wins or when he loses, talking about how he needs to leave Milwaukee. Same thing happened with Kawhi in Toronto. Same thing's been happening to all these lesser notorious markets, right? And I think it's great to see a team like the Bucks win it, because it does give hope to these smaller markets. It's great to see teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers without LeBron James actually doing well, because that's another thing. That's a homegrown team. That's a homegrown team that, again, on paper, I'm going to say it, that my team should not work together on paper. It doesn't make too much sense, but they do. It is what it is. I'm not going to fight it. But yeah, I mean, but it's so weird. The NBA doesn't even incentivize that anymore, though. They want super teams. They want more super teams.
And it's weird too, because like the reason why I bring up like you have like I want to see Sacramento make a playoff so badly is just because like we're gonna get home court advantages now. Like this year, like fans are gonna be back in the seats and everything right now, right? Small market have more of a home court advantage than big market teams. What I mean is, I don't know if you've ever noticed how, like, when the Knicks play a home game at MSG, yeah, it's a home game, but how many times does the opposing team's best player decide to have the game of his life at MSG? How many times does the other team's best player go out to LA and drop 40 or 30 on the Lakers? Like, is it really a home court? Like, home court is like, remember like Oklahoma City? How like when Oklahoma City was good, if you had to play an away game, like you were not Golden State. When the year Golden State won 73 games, they went into Oklahoma City for the Western Conference Finals. I do understand they won the series in 7 games. Games 3 and 4, they got absolutely run off the fucking court. I'm talking lost by fucking 40. Like, because they went up against a team with a home court. You got those small market teams, the home court advantage and everything like that. That's what I think you'd get out of Sacramento. Memphis. You're going to see Memphis. Memphis is going to be fucking wild when they get to the playoffs because they're going to get home court in the first round because they're probably going to be one of those top 4 seeds. You're going to see that fan base, that atmosphere is going to be fucking electric. And that's what I want to see out of Sacramento because Sacramento, for the longest time, they've been so bad for so long. I really feel like that could be, and I want to see De'Aaron Fox so bad. Like, we saw pretty much the entire career of DeMarcus Cousins get wasted in Sacramento. I don't want to see it happen to De'Aaron Fox, dude. I really don't want to see it happen to De'Aaron Fox because De'Aaron Fox, 1 year average, I think last year, or the last year, the year before, he averaged like 27 a game. Nobody talked about it because the Kings were so bad. He's averaging like 25 this year, and nobody talks about it.
Well, he's definitely going to be getting some help after the Kings made these big trades at the trade deadline. So arriving to Sacramento are Domantas Sabonis, Dante, I'm not going to try to say his last name, Justin Holiday.
DiVincenzo.
There we go. DiVincenzo, Gabagool, Josh Jackson, Jeremy Lamb, and Trey Lyles. Departing from the Kings is Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who I thought had a lot of potential, Tristan Thompson, and Buddy Hield are gone from Sacramento. These are some big-time moves for Sacramento. But is it enough, Andrew, do you think, for them to at least make that push to become a real playoff contender?
I do think it is, only because, they have another scorer. Getting a guy like Sabonis is to them what Marvin Bagley was supposed to be, which is a guy that can go out. He might not be like, I'm not going to say they're both elite rim protectors. Like, I'm not going to say Bagley's an elite rim protector. Definitely a better defensive player than Sabonis. But Sabonis, you know what you're getting. He's going to give you 20, 25, and 20, 25 points every night, and you're going to get 10 to 12 rebounds. You're getting that. To go along with De'Aaron Fox, with those other pieces, Jeremy Lamb is good for giving you 10 to 12. All those other pieces that they bought in, Dante is a solid role player. He's more of a defensive player, 3-and-D kind of player. That's more or less what they were going for. They were going for basically getting another guy that could go give them 20 when they need it to kind of take a little bit of the pressure off of Harrison Barnes, take a little bit of the pressure off of De'Aaron Fox. It did cost them Tyrese Halliburton, but you know what? I think playing alongside De'Aaron Fox was actually holding Halliburton back. And I think Halliburton is going to get more of an opportunity in Indiana now and down the road, especially because they're going to move on from Malcolm Brogdon. They're going to move on from Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh,
they kind of already have Malcolm Brogdon's replacement.
The greatest rookie of the year of all time.
Yeah. They kind of, they've already got Brogdon's replacement out in Indiana in that kid Duarte. So they're going to have to move on, but they need a franchise point guard. That's what they finally have in Indiana. They have a franchise point guard, and they're going to build around that. They still have Miles Turner. Obviously Tristan Thompson is not, he can get rebounds and set screens.
He can get rebounds and cheat on his girlfriend like it's nobody's business.
And he sets a mean-ass screen. I'm not saying it's on the Steven Adams type level, but he sets a mean-ass screen. And Buddy Hield, dude. Buddy Hield is one of those dudes. The Lakers wanted Buddy Hield for a reason. Because that dude, he's another one, dude. You blink your eye, dude could go drop 20 on you, hit 7 threes, and, he's one of those dudes. So Indiana is kind of like setting themselves up for the future with the acquisitions that they made. And Sacramento is taking the approach of like, we want to give ourselves an opportunity to compete right now while still being young enough to have a future. And that's what they did. So I think the future is actually going to be pretty bright in Sacramento. Obviously, it's hard in the West, but, Portland blew it up. The Lakers, I don't know what's going to happen with them. And then you obviously have, Zion.
The Clippers aren't doing anything. Like
Zion is apparently having foot surgery again. Zion, at this point, I think Zion is he's doing everything in his power to not play for. Because every time I look up, it's another. Oh yeah, he had another setback in his rehab. It's like, did he really, or does he really just not want to wear that New Orleans jersey? Is that really what this is? I've never seen somebody get hurt that much rehabbing. Like, the whole point of rehab is to make sure you don't get hurt again, or the whole point of rehab is to make sure, build up the strength so that you'll be able to play. I've never seen somebody get hurt this number of times while rehabbing the way Zion has.
I read the injury report that Zion was on like just a few days ago, and it said he was out for lunch. Like that man is like, I mean, it's just, I'm concerned. I'm genuinely concerned for Zion. Like, I'm like, dude, like for your health, my G. Like, forget basketball. I'm like, dude, for your health, like, come on now.
I really hope he's not another Renardo Sidney, because Renardo Sidney was Renardo Sidney. Renardo Sidney was the #1 high school basketball player in the country coming out, went to Louisville. Renardo Sidney's problem was Renardo Sidney, he loved to eat and he couldn't stay in shape. Because he couldn't stay in shape, he was always 3 bills, and his career was cut short because he just couldn't, he wasn't healthy enough to play basketball. I don't want to see that happen to Zion.
Big, like, it's like Jared Lorenzen. You remember Jared Lorenzen, the quarterback, the hefty lefty, R.I.P. Jared Lorenzen, man. Like, he had an arm. That dude had an arm. He just really needed to keep the weight down. Jamarcus Russell too. Oh my God. I mean, that was just, he was cocky about it though. Jamarcus Russell was like, yeah, I'm fat. So
but that's the thing though. I mean, with the Western Conference, you got, you got teams in the West that are just, they, since day one, it was, the fucking, who was it? The Oklahoma City. Yeah, no, they're playing for a draft spot. Oklahoma City, like, they're developing the young pieces. They're playing for a draft spot. New Orleans, Zion is doing everything in his power to make sure he doesn't suit up for them. So there's that. Yeah, there's that. Houston's another one. I don't know. Houston's just playing for a draft spot. San Antonio, I mean, because those other teams are so bad, San Antonio, who really is not that good of a team, actually has a chance to sneak in as the 7-10 just because those other teams are so bad. And Sacramento's the same deal. Portland blew it up. I mean, you saw Portland just blew it up. So there's going to be an opportunity for Sacramento, and hopefully Sacramento can, I want to see Sacramento maybe be like last year's Memphis team, where just give them a chance. You just need a 2-game win streak. You get that 7-10 2-game win streak. Hey, you're in.
The big thing about the NBA that people forget, big thing about sports in general and winning a championship, you'll never know if you don't try. At least the Kings are trying. At least they are attempting to make a better team, which is a lot more than you can say about some teams. You could argue some teams just need to be abolished. But guys, let us know what you guys think in the chat. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We got some chats from Cincy. Cincy says, wait, Lawrence Taylor did coke? Is that a serious question? Of course he did.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. Watch The Replacements. Watch that movie. Or not The Replacement. What was it? Any Given Sunday. Any Given Sunday. He definitely did coke. He admitted to doing it. Since he also says, I forgot about Tyreek Evans. IDK, how they traded Hield. He's been good. Buddy Hield looks good in the Pacers jersey. I mean, it's fitting. He's a good player. He's a really good player. There's a reason the Lakers wanted him. So I feel bad.
He did lie about his age, though. That man was a whole 26, telling people he was 22.
I mean, it's not worse than Albert Pujols being like, Albert Pujols like 7 years older than he actually is, or whatever. Or
a bunch of dudes did that. Who was it? A bunch of dudes did that. Remember that dude E. Gianleon?
Yeah.
Dude, that dude was like 7 years older than he claimed to be on draft night.
Oh my God, I remember that. Oh my God.
They thought they were drafting a 21-year-old. No, that dude was like almost 30. He was like damn near pushing 30.
Yeah, I mean,
no wonder he was so polished.
Say what you want about Brandon Whedon. At least he didn't lie about his age in the NFL draft. He's like, I am going to, and he got drafted. How wasn't Brandon Whedon like 28 when he got drafted by the Browns?
Yeah, something like that.
Brandon Whedon, man, I love it. He played the game the right way, and he still got drafted. He got his bag. Can't hate on it. The Browns just giving money away to quarterbacks. That's what they do. Oh man, guys, let's keep it going. Since he also says Zion seems like a bust right now. Zion seems like the Eddie Lacy of the NFL. Yeah.
Honestly, at this point, yeah. I mean, I've never seen a dude. Dude, I'm talking like, I understand, okay, after you rehab, you get back on the court. Dude, he's getting hurt during his rehab sessions. Like, I've never seen, this is multiple times this has happened too. Like, where he's at multiple setbacks.
They need to find a different trainer. Like, this is not normal.
At this point, I'm telling you, he's doing everything in his power to not wear that New Orleans jersey. I think that's all. That's what it is at this point. Like,
Yeah.
Because he's definitely got people in his corner telling him, like, listen, like, we don't want to be here. We're just doing everything on our power. Like, we're doing everything and just get the bag and then get the hell out of here.
My thing is though, Drew, like, he needs to be ready when that happens, though. Like, he's not ready. He's not ready to play for the Lakers or the Nets or whoever's gonna like trade for him, right? He's not ready. The dude's still gonna be like 300 pounds and slow and hurt. like he's just gonna be sad. Like, come on, Zion, so much potential. I remember Zion was like just a beast. He was a beast, and now he's a feast. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. We love you, Zion.
Who was it? Was it Ty? Was it one of the dudes on the McAfee show? They asked Shams. They were like, what did he say? He was like, I mean, at this point, wouldn't it be the best for just because the game is slowly trying to go back to 90s rules. I mean, wouldn't it be best to just have him bulk up to like 600 pounds and just bulldoze? Like at this point, like.
I mean, that would. I mean, I don't know about you. Speaking of going back to rules, look, I'm not saying that they should go back to the rules of 2009 for the NFL, but I watched that 2009 Super Bowl. Like, it was on NFL Network. I just had it on the background, right? But then I found myself just watching the game for some reason, right? Like, that was the Steelers-Cardinals one.
Steelers-Cardinals, yes.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. So
2008 season.
Yeah.
2009 Super Bowl.
So I'm watching
I suppressed that one, too.
So I'm watching this, right? And I am seeing, like, hits that I'm just like, oh, shit. And these are, like, normal hits. And I'm just like, yo. Like again, I am not saying that the NFL needs to bring back, like, all, like, the helmet-to-helmet stuff. But I'm just like, that game was fun to watch. Even though it was, like, terrible for the players or whatever. I'm just like, oh, that's a different breed of football. That's a different breed of football. Like, I think people who say, like, oh, like, the rules, like, they don't really affect, like, the games or whatever. I'm like, yeah, there's still going to be great players. Like, great players are still going to be great, right? But, like, it's a different gear. Like, it's a different gear. It's a different game, really.
Well, it was funny because I think somebody made a comment where they were like, take the greatest offense ever, which was one of those Kansas City teams. It might have been 2019 or 2020 Kansas City, and put them up against the 85 Bears. And I saw people saying, like, well, I want to see, what would happen. I want to see somebody from the 80s try to cover Tyreek Hill. And I'm like, listen, I don't think you understand. Like, yeah, they might not be able to catch Tyreek Hill, but the minute Tyreek Hill comes across the middle, he's going to get fucking destroyed. Like, they're going to fucking level him. And that's just a regular, they're going to hit him in today's NFL. It's 15 and then some yards. He's going to get hit and he might not get back up. Like, that's the difference between back then and today.
See, I think it would be interesting because, like, you're right. Like, Tyreek Hill is going to he's little. Like, people, like, he's a little guy. I'm not saying he's not strong or whatever, but he's fast as hell. But he's a little dude. Those are some big players. Like, and I'm not saying this. Like, Tyreek Hill very well could, if they game planned it right, if it was the 85 Bears versus the 2018 Chiefs, right? There's a way to game plan it where Tyreek Hill doesn't go through the middle of the field and he just runs streaks, and he's gonna run past a lot of those corners. Like if we're being honest, but it only takes one hit from, like, Mike Singletary or Butkus in the middle of the field. Oh, he's done. He's done. Like, Travis Kelce would fight through that stuff. Like, it'd be the last game he ever played, but he'd fight through that stuff. I mean, but it is a different game, and it would be an interesting matchup, though. It genuinely would be. But I
forgot who was it. I saw Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe was having a conversation with Ray Lewis a couple of years ago, and they asked, they were like, how did you guys go about neutralizing quarterbacks? And Shannon Sharpe just bluntly said, he was like, oh, we heard him. That's what we heard him. That's what we did. He was like, Keely Smith. Oh, yeah. They were like, oh, yeah, you get one of these guys like, Ray back then. You got a Von Miller. If Von Miller was allowed to hit a guy the way Ray Lewis and those guys were allowed to hit in the early 2000s, oh, yeah, they could, a Von Miller, Khalil Mack. Oh, they could knock a Tom Brady. They could knock Mahomes out of the game in the first quarter.
It was part of the game. It was literally a strategy in the game. Knock out the quarterback.
Why did you think Keely Smith failed? Wasn't
in the
his
AFC
fault.
North, the AFC Central. Sorry, the AFC Central. Because like not only was he going up against the Ravens, the Steelers, he was going up against the Titans. He was going up
Yeah.
against like, oh, those are some
The Colts.
tough
I think the
teams.
Colts were in that too. Jacksonville, dude. Jacksonville,
Oh,
the
those
year
late-
the Titans went to the Super Bowl. The late 90s, dude. Jacksonville
Those
was like
late
15-1. The year
Yo.
that the Titans went to the Super Bowl, Jacksonville was like 15-1 that year or something like
Big
that.
shout
and
out to
and
Mike,
they beat everybody.
What was his name? Mike Brunell, Mark Brunell. I think that was his name, right?
The coach?
No. The quarterback. It was
GM?
Mark Brunell,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
the
it
coach
was,
was what's his name? Tom Coughlin. That
Coughlin, yeah.
Coughlin was the coach. Oh man, yeah. Oh wow, big shout out to Mark Brunell. Sorry, Mark Brunell. He is now the quarterback coach for the Detroit Lions. He's out there with. Oh, by the way, the Lions. They got their. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. Like, bro, DC. Like,
DC.
he is like he is. I think I said this. He's like the exact opposite of Urban Meyer in almost every way, right? He's the polar opposite of Urban Meyer in almost every way, because Urban Meyer came in and like wanted to like change the culture of Jacksonville to this militaristic, I'm in charge college type of culture, right? Which works in college because the kids are scared of the control that they have over, or you have over them, right? But with the NFL, it's like, dog, these are pros. These are not. You're not a coach. You're not trying to coach these players necessarily as much as you're trying to game plan and strategize. These are your peers. It's like an office. They're a different department, same level as you, dog. And he didn't see that. DC sees that. And here's the thing. A coach like Dan Campbell, what makes him so effective is the fact that he understands the relationship you're supposed to have with your players and how you're supposed to treat them. And the team feeds off of it. And it's created a culture where they're willing to run through a brick wall if that's what it takes to win for that guy. Because week after week, he took all the blame. Week after week, he was in tears after the game. Literally, I mean, look, Justin Tucker hits a 66-yard field goal. It ties an NFL record indoors to win a game against you. I'd cry too if I was on the other end of that team. I mean, like, what more can you do? Like, they should have won that game, but we had Tucker. But you know, it's just such a dichotomy. It's such a difference. Like, everyone was like, "Oh, Urban Meyer's gonna work in the NFL," and like even you and I think you and I were on there saying like, "Man, this could go one of two ways with Urban Meyer," and one of them is just he's one and done. He didn't even make it a year. He didn't even make it a year.
The other way it could have went, which is what a lot of people were expecting, it was team wasn't going to be that good, but they were going to be able to somewhat compete. And then after his first year there, okay, he coached a lot of studs in college. You know, he could potentially get one of those studs who he coached in college to come play for him, whether it be Zeke, Michael Thomas, one of those dudes, the Bosas. That's what people were expecting, that he could at least get one of those guys or a couple of those guys to come play for him. He didn't even get that far. And you can't, dude, you have certain coaches, like, you can, with that iron fist and everything like that, like, you know, Belichick is proven. Like, Belichick can kind of do that. Like, Urban Meyer thought he was going to come in. It's like, dude, like, you know, there were times where, I'm not kidding, I literally think, like, if he were to tell one of his players, like, there's like a pecking order when it comes to coaches. Like, a player has to get, a coach has to demand players respect. Like, it's not like it's the other way around, where, like, the coach has to respect you in college to, like, let you play, everything like that. It's the other way around. It's in the NFL, the players have to basically like, the coach has to be respected by the players and everything like that. And I would not be surprised if there were times where he's like, you know, he'd tell a guy like, no, you're not playing. And he was like, fuck you, I make more than you. And then the dude just checks himself in the game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would not be surprised if that's what was going down there.
He benched James Robinson, which is like the only good thing about that team was their running back, James Robinson. He's a gem for them too. Undrafted rookie free agent, had over 1,000 yards rushing and like 600 receiving. And you're going to bench that guy? Like, come on, dude. Urban Meyer failure. Here's the thing. I think also for Urban Meyer, he fundamentally misunderstood what it meant to coach in the NFL. Because in the NFL, you got to be a coach. In college, you can be a great recruiter and get away with being a great head coach in college. You know what I'm saying? And that's Urban Meyer, great recruiter, right? I'm sure he can sweet talk you into like whatever, signing whatever, right? He is I'm sure he's a smooth talker. He's smooth talked his way into a job with the Jaguars, and still gonna find a way to get his money. But I mean, like Nick Saban's the same one. Like the only coach that stands out that has worked well and excelled at both levels, college and the pros, is Jim Harbaugh. He's the only one that really stands out. Because say what you want, but everyone wants to crap on Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a better NFL coach than he was a college coach. Genuinely think he's a better NFL coach than a college coach. Because the dude comes in and what does he do? NFC title games, 3 years in a row? 11, 12, 13, and then 14 they go 8-8, and they fire him? And he goes back to college, and he's just like, okay, I'm going to coach Michigan and just have fun.
He revitalized Michigan, too, dude. I mean, Michigan under Brady Hoke, like, Brady Hoke had talent, and, you know, he basically came in and was like, nah, like, Michigan went from, like, 6 wins to, like, the next year they won 10. Next year, and they were talking about firing the guy. It's like, dude, you beat every other team you beat every other. It was the same shit with, like, who was it? With, like, LSU. Like, they fired Les Miles. It's like, dude, LSU was sending guys to the NFL every single year. They were up there with Alabama. It's like, we get it. Like, you know, because of the way it works, it was the same thing with Michigan. It's like, you're sending guys to the NFL every year. You got studs. It was like, you're winning 11, 12 games every year just because you have this other juggernaut in your division, not even just in your conference, in your division that you can't beat. It's like, that doesn't take away from you as a program. They're talking about firing Harbaugh. It's like, dude, he's literally beating everybody else. He wins the rivalry game against Michigan State every damn year, but because he can't beat Ohio State, because Ohio State has literally a team of first rounders, they want to fire the guy. It was the same thing with fucking LSU all those years. It was like people forgot how good and how talented LSU really was as a program just because they'd had, you know, Leonard Fournette, Odell, Jarvis Landry, all those defensive studs, everything like that. Tyrann Matthews, all those dudes. People forgot just how good they were because, you know, they're winning 10, 11 games every year, but because they couldn't beat Alabama, it's like, yeah, they're going to this bowl instead of playing for the national championship. And it's not a knock on them because, okay, basically because they can't beat the team that's the odds-on favorite to win the national championship every year, who just so happens to be in their division. You're going to take away from that and be like, oh, like, you know, we're going to discount them. It's like, take LSU out and put them in the fucking Pac-12, or take Ohio State and put them in the fucking Big 12. Michigan, and put them in the fucking Big 12 and watch them run through that entire fucking conference because they don't have to play those other two damn juggernauts. It's
they are. Sorry,
the other coach was Pete Carroll, dude. Pete Carroll's the other one. Pete Carroll, you know, he revitalized USC,
right.
and then he just, you know, I mean, obviously he hasn't had the success the last couple of years, but, you know, obviously it hasn't been the same. Like the front office has struck out on a lot of, you know, particularly defensive players and everything like that. You know, they did great. They brought in, great with drafting DK Metcalf. They've had Tyler Lockett, everything like that. Russ is obviously getting older and everything like that, which is, you know, nothing you could do about that. But, you know, their thing was defense, and they haven't been able to replace what they once had, which was like, you know, in the last decade, the most dominant defense of the last decade, like, was the Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
And they haven't really been able to replace that. So, but Pete Carroll's another one, dude. You know, came in, went to USC, revitalized that, got to the Seahawks and everything like that, which the Seahawks did make a Super Bowl appearance in 2005? Really didn't do anything since then. And then he came in, they built up that defense, drafted Russ, won the Super Bowl, went to another one, lost, and, you know, he's another one, though, just everywhere he goes. And it's hard to have that sustained success, though, unless you're a Belichick. You know, it's very hard. And you have a Brady, it's very, very hard.
We got my boy Big Ticket in the chat saying, Michigan finished second to last in the Big Ten East last season. Harbaugh's criticisms were earned, but they played well this season. I mean, okay.
Last year, think about it. Last year was a weird season. Like, you can't, because think about it. Penn State, dude. Micah Parsons opted out. Penn State almost lost every damn game. Like, you can't really count last season because Indiana, dude, the year before, like during the COVID year, Indiana damn near almost won the Big Ten. And then this year, with fans in the stands and everything like that, I don't think Indiana won a game in the Big Ten. Like, I think even Rutgers beat them. So you can't really count that COVID year because that was a very, very, very weird year.
Okay, and again, and in defense of Jim Harbaugh, like, I'm gonna read out his records since he's been at Michigan: 10-3, 10-3, 8-5, 10-3, 9-4, 2-4 last year, 12-2 this year. He consistently wins. They played 6 games last year. 6 games in a season where, I mean, especially college football, dude. It was, you and I were talking about the entire season, how just it was a weird season. I mean, the players opting out was weird. The players testing positive was weird. Everything. I mean, again, everyone was navigating it. But to have, like, for the entire Big Ten only play 6 games, it's hard to get in a groove when you're only playing 6 games, right? It's really hard to get into a groove, mentally prepare for that. I mean, it is, and especially with everything else going on. I mean, if there's any season that you would not even, I don't want to even give him a pass, right? Because I feel like that's whatever, soft or whatever. But it's like, I just don't think you can criticize him too much for one bloop year. Like, one year where it was just like, oh, it didn't work. You know? It's like look at his, like, John Harbaugh, right? Like, you know, John Harbaugh consistently has a winning record almost every year. Of 2015, they went 5-11. It was just like, okay, that's a dud. You gonna fire him after that? You gonna fire Bill Belichick last year after going 7-9? No, it's just let great coaches coach and let them work out the problems because you know damn well Jim Harbaugh looked at the problems that this team had last year and he figured them out, and they were in the title picture this year.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he's obviously, like, you know, there are high expectations of it like that. But I mean, look at outside of Brady Hoke's first year at Michigan, which they won like 11 games. Brady Hoke's first year at Michigan, right? That was a Rich Rod. That was with a Rich Rod left, like, team. Like, that was Rich Rod left them with that, and that's what he did. When he had to go build his own team, bring in his own guys, Brady Hoke was winning. You know, he went like 8-5. You know, the next year he won like 7 games, and the next year he won like 4. So to go from that to I think outside of the COVID year, the only real down year they had was the one year where they went 8-5, which, you know, that was like one of Brady Hoke's best years. And that was Harbaugh's worst year when you're not counting the damn fucking COVID year.
1 year. I mean, and hey, big shout out to Brady Hoke. I mean, San Diego State did really well this season. I mean, like, they won what? Like, they won like 13-2 or whatever. Or like something like that. Or not 13. It was like 11-2 or something. They did well.
Yeah, for the Mountain West competition they did.
Oh,
they won big ticket. Money.
Big tickets fighting Utah. Back. Big tickets
What's
fighting back at you, Andrew.
What's he saying?
Michigan would not dominate the Big 12. That's just not true. I'm going to be quiet now.
They wouldn't dominate the Big 12? They don't play defense in the Big 12. The only team that plays defense in the Big 12 is Baylor. I'll give you that, okay?
The Big 12. Oh, God.
The Big 12. That's Kansas. Yeah. That's Kansas State. That's, I mean,
they literally I know literally they don't play defense.
Outside of potentially losing a shootout to Oklahoma, I think they could go into Oklahoma State and beat them. You know, they would maybe lose a slugfest to Baylor because Baylor is the only team that actually plays defense. Texas, dude. How many years has it been Texas wins the first game and Texas is back only for Texas to only win 7 games? Come on, dude.
Like, here's the thing. The only you could say like I don't even think that, man. I think really the only team that plays defense properly in that whole thing is TCU. Like,
they're
TCU.
The team that's attempted to.
That's the only team that
Baylor does now. Baylor does now because they bought in Dave Aranda from LSU. So Baylor does now, and they bought in guys. But I mean, outside of that, dude, fucking you think Michigan? Look at the schedule they played, dude. Think about the Big 12. Think about who's in the Big 12. Outside of potentially losing a shootout, which it wouldn't even be a shootout because, as we've seen, physical teams, physical SEC and Big 10 teams, fucking run all over Oklahoma. Like, we've seen it. We have a big enough sample size to know that physical teams will fucking just take it to Oklahoma. So Oklahoma has to score points or they're screwed. And in those games, they don't. So outside of potentially losing a shootout to Oklahoma, they beat Kansas. They beat Kansas State. TCU is not what it once was. They do attempt to play defense, but they don't have the talent they once had. Gary Patterson, I don't even know if he's still there anymore. Oklahoma State's another one. Oklahoma State, you forget that Oklahoma State is like there until you look up and they're like, 9-1 or 10-0 at the end of the year. And then what happens? They lose to Oklahoma and their season is essentially over. So the only team that could really give Michigan a run for their money, I think, in the Big 12 as of right now would probably be Baylor, but Oklahoma is going to get better defensively. The problem in the past with Oklahoma has been they don't play defense. So I think Michigan, if you would have put Michigan the last couple of years in the Big 12, hell yeah, they'd run through it.
Yeah, man. Man, oh man. We got a lot to talk about, Andrew. Man, we went on like a 20-minute tirade about like coaches in college football. But I think it was good. Also, there's a report that Kyler Murray apparently told Colt McCoy after the playoff loss that, quote, "I'm done." Which, I mean, he was correct. They were done for the season, at least.
He's gonna force his way out of Arizona.
I mean, I think it's. I don't think it's gonna end up happening. Cardinals. I mean, if I'm the Cardinals, I'm not trading him unless I get. I don't even know what would I need to get. No, unless I would get like. And again, this is like from a pure football perspective, right? That assuming he can play and everything's false, right? If you trade Deshaun Watson for Kyler Murray, I do that. I do that.
No,
I do that.
Kyler Murray is still on his rookie deal, dude.
I understand that, but
if you're gonna get Deshaun Watson, I want every draft pick they have. If I'm taking Deshaun Watson's salary, then if I'm getting Deshaun Watson's salary, I better have. If you're Arizona and you're gonna give Houston Kyler Murray on that player friendly deal that he's still on his rookie contract, if you're gonna take on Deshaun Watson's contract, I better have next year's first, second, third, fourth. The year after that's first and second, and then maybe the year after that's first. If I'm taking on that contract with Kyler Murray's current contract.
That would be, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
Number one. Think about it. He was a number 1 overall pick. With that player-friendly contract, I better have like the next 3 years worth of first rounders coming if you're going to absorb Deshaun Watson's salary.
I just think Watson's a better quarterback if he can stay on the field. If he can be on the field,
well, yeah.
I think he's just a better quarterback.
Mighty Mouse can't see over the O-line. That's his problem. But
maybe
the Giants should look into it.
Did I tell you I created like whenever I play like my career in Madden or whatever or franchise mode, I always create myself as like a 5'6" quarterback. I'm all about the immersiveness, bro. When I tell you I am running the Baker Mayfield Baker Mayfield offense. It's just hand the ball off, bootleg play action all day, because I mean, you really can't see over him. And this is me playing Madden. Wait till like the VR Madden comes through. Wait till you're like actually the quarterback. That's gonna be weird. And
you have to play as Kyler Murray. You're gonna actually see what it's like to be a 5'9".
He's
listed at 5'10". He's listed at 5'10", dude. The dude's got to be at least 5'7". He's got to be at least 5'7", 5'8". Because the cleats add an additional 2 inches, so he's got to be at least 5'7", 5'8".
Don't forget about the hair too. The hair.
So think about that, dude. And he's got to see over. Like the shortest dude on the O line is usually the center, and the center is usually like 6 feet, 6'1". Your left tackle is usually like 6'7". Your right tackle is usually like 6'8". And he's got to try to see over that when these dudes are a foot taller than him.
Big Ticket says, "Bring me on the show one day." Hey man, we're open to it. We're always open to it. I think Big Ticket is a staunch defender of Big 12 football here. We got a big staunch defender.
Listen, I like watching Big 12 football too. I like defense, but occasionally I do like a 60-58 final score. Occasionally I do like a Big 12 shootout.
That is not football.
They don't play defense.
They don't play defense. And I'm sorry. And I know he says last 3 seasons, best scoring defense in 3 straight bowl seasons is the Big 12. If I had a fact checker, I would tell him to fact check that. But we'll move on. We'll take your word for it for now, Big Ticket. We'll address this later. Guys, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Andrew,
I'll tell you what. They're going to get better on defense, though. They just, I mean, the only team, the team in the Big 12 is Oklahoma, and they literally just brought in a defensive, like they brought in the best defensive coach outside of Saban they could have brought in to be their head coach. So Oklahoma's going to get better on defense. I don't know how they're going to score points, though, because every quarterback they had left. So
little known fact,
defense to run the ball.
When we started this show, it always took me longer to edit the show than actually like record it, because we'd just go on like long diatribes and long tangents like we just did for like 30 minutes. So there's your little insights.
Yeah, I can't wait for the draft, dude. I can't wait for the draft.
Oh, well,
dude.
I mean, look, you can't wait for the draft. That's why I got this segment here. Andrew, CBS Sports just unleashed. Oh God, that's very aggressive. But CBS Sports just unveiled, I guess, their QB rankings. So these are the QB rankings, the top 5 quarterbacks coming into this NFL draft, according to CBS Sports. At number 1, you got Matt Corral, as some people would say. Matt Corral, like on some Mr. Crab shit, from Ole Miss. Malik Willis from Liberty. Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. Sam Howell from North Carolina. And the incredibly underrated Desmond Ridder from Yee University of Cincinnati. Andrew, I'm going to ask you just a full-on question. Which one of these quarterbacks do you think... Actually, no, I'll just rephrase the question for a second. What do you think about this list, first of all? Matt Corral, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, and Desmond Ridder in that order. What do you think of this list by CBS Sports?
What do you mean? Do I like the list itself, or like the order in which the names are? Is that what you mean?
No, the order. The order. What do you think?
Who
is? How about this? Andrew? Who is the best quarterback coming into this NFL draft?
Highest ceiling is Malik Willis. Most NFL ready to me is Kenny Pickett. That's what I see. Kenny Pickett took that Pittsburgh program that was essentially, hasn't had a quarterback ever, and won the ACC with them. Malik Willis, though, I think, even though he's coming out of Liberty, which he did play for a Hugh Freeze offense and everything like that, very explosive guy and everything. A lot of people say he does remind them of Trey Lance and everything. People forget that he wasn't your prototypical, like, coming out of a small school guy. Like, he ended up at a smaller school, but he was at Auburn before he transferred to Liberty to play for Hugh Freeze. So the talent is definitely there. Like, he had SEC ability. It just didn't work out at Auburn. So that's why I think he has the highest ceiling. Matt Corral to me I think he's solid. I think playing in a Lane Kiffin offense obviously made him look a lot better. And the NFL is going to show, like, we're going to wait for the pro days for all these guys, because when the pro days are really going to show, like, what they can and can't do, everything like that, it's going to show, like, but you can't put too much stock in the pro day, because remember, Zach Wilson was making fucking, on the run, like, Zach Wilson was making Mahomes throws on a pro day, and then he gets to the NFL and he couldn't do any of that. So that's pretty much Desmond Ridder. I mean, I like Desmond Ridder. Him being at number 5, I think, is good. Another quarterback that I think is being left out that, he's not going to be a higher one, but I think could be a solid 3rd or 4th round pick was a kid out of Oregon, Anthony Brown. That's like he's a sleeper, a guy that I think could come in and, he could carve out a role for himself, maybe as a backup, or maybe even, I'm not going to go as far as to say Deshaun Watson, but he could be I think he could be a pretty good quarterback. Sam Howell, I have a weird, my thing on Sam Howell was he was supposed to be a lot better. North Carolina was supposed to be a lot better this year. The fact that they weren't is the only reason why I have a lot of suspicion, because this was the year. Clemson was down. This was the year for North Carolina with all they returned to take the step, win the ACC. It was literally conference player of the year was after DJU Youngaloy basically lost it. It was Sam Howell in North Carolina's, and they didn't take it. That's the only reason why I have reservations about Sam Howell.
I agree with you, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like I am like biased against quarterbacks who come from the state of North Carolina ever since like the Daniel Jones debacle, Mitch Trubisky. I'm just like, stay away from it. If they fall like into the late first round or the second round, hey, all right, come on, go get them. But I'm just like, you know what? Like, I don't see something from Sam Howell that I don't see from a lot of other quarterbacks. For me, I agree with you, Malik Willis, biggest potential, and it's both ways though. He has the biggest potential to succeed. He's also got a lot of potential to bust, and that's not me saying he's going to be a bust. That is me saying that
Trey
it
Lance.
could go
He's Trey Lance.
exactly depending on where he goes. If he goes like top 3, we're talking about a lot of different like he could potentially be a bust, or he could just have been like something that a lot of other people didn't see. For me, the most interesting one and the player that if I had to bet my money on it, Andrew, if I had to bet my money on like 10 years from now, which one of these players or which one of these quarterbacks is 100% going to be playing in the NFL, it's Desmond Ridder. And it comes from this belief and what I've seen and especially over the last like maybe 15 years in the NFL. One thing that has transferred over well for longevity, and I'm not saying necessarily he's going to be a star. I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler even, but people who stay in the league, they won a lot of games in college. Colt McCoy, he's still around. He's still starting games sometimes. You have Case Keenum, still around. Kellen Moore would have still been around. He was still on the Cowboys, and then he ended up being a coach. Now he's in a head coaching consideration, which is crazy to me because he was dropping dimes at Boise State like just a few years ago. But see, for me, I am just like, he won in college. Yes, the fundamentals aren't great all the time. Yes, he throws inaccurate balls sometimes, but those are things you can work on. The dude is a stud. He's a diamond in the rough. He's got potential to do well, and he's a winner and a proven leader, and that's the bare minimum. He's going to come in and do his job in the NFL, which is a lot more than some players can honestly say. And especially coming off of this last year, like 30 touchdowns, 8 picks. The dude passed for 3,000 yards. He's mobile as well. I think Desmond Ridder is going to surprise a lot of people. But for me, like that's the guy who I have to bet 10 years from now, which one of these is 100% going to be playing. I'm like, Desmond Ridder.
I agree. He's the guy. I mean, we don't have a second round pick, but if he's there in the third round, which, you know, like a lot of these mocks are not, you know, you don't know where some of these guys are going to fall. I mean, Desmond Ridder could be a first rounder. He could fall to the third or fourth round. You don't know. If he's there in the third round, though, I want Tennessee to take him.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at like who are going to be like the teams that are picking at the top. Like the NFL draft is going to be very interesting. I mean, outside of like, you know, like the number 1 pick, like we all know, like fucking kid from Michigan's going to, he's going there. Like, I mean, it's just Jacksonville. Could you imagine Jacksonville takes a quarterback? It's a Shad Khan. That's something the Shad Khan would do. That's like a very Shad Khan move. Just being like, you know what we need? Another quarterback. Let's go get him. Let's go get him, boys.
Hey, you know what? They could be like Tennessee though in 2016 or 27. I think it was 2016 where they could say, we got the number 1 pick. You know what? We're going to trade the number 1 pick. I don't think a team is, by the way, I think Tennessee is the only team in the history of the NFL to ever just get that highly coveted pick and be like, no, we're going to trade it. We're going to get like 10 picks in return.
That's the thing, too. Your team is never going to be that bad ever again, too.
No.
You're like never.
Foundation is too set and everything like that. The foundation is too set. We have, you know, a good enough culture built. Like we're not going to have to, but hey, Jacksonville is that bad where Jacksonville literally could be like, you know what? We don't like this. We'll trade. Hey, the Jets got 2 top 10 picks. That would be so
dumb. Dude, that would be so dumb.
Wait, could you imagine they trade with the Giants? The Giants get the number 1 pick, and they get both of the Giants' first round picks and maybe a second rounder for that first round. Like, could you imagine that? Then they could go out and get like Kayvon Thibodeau.
I mean, the ones that are in play are like the Philadelphia Eagles have like back-to-back picks at 15 and 16. You got the Giants who have 2. I think the Jets have 2 in the top 10. That's one that could actually most realistic. I just don't see them moving up for a quarterback. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, moving up for Aiden Hutchinson, I wouldn't say that's a bad move. I think Aiden Hutchinson is like by far the best player in this draft. Like, Like I mean, yeah, you could say Kayvon Thibodeau maybe. Like I mean,
I mean, I
let
love
me.
Derek Stingley. I love Derek Stingley, but a
Do
corner's
you
not going
really?
number one. A corner's not going number one. I love Derek Stingley. Yeah.
Is it? I mean, the corner. If you're a corner who goes number one, you gotta have like you gotta have like what's his name? Dion Prime and Thibodeau.
have you ever heard the Jalen Ramsey draft story where he actually said when he was coming out, he wanted to go to the Titans because he's from Tennessee, and he literally was like, when I saw Tennessee had the number one pick, I thought I was gonna make history, and then the next second I saw they traded it, and I was like, damn.
What's that shit Prime said? It's like I'm glad Detroit didn't take me. I would ask for so much money they had to put me on layaway. I was like, okay. Oh,
Who took him?
Prime.
Dallas? It was either no, it was at Dallas, right?
Wasn't it San Francisco? Or no,
It was
I
one of
think
the, it was either Atlanta. Was it Atlanta? It was one of the three. I think he
No,
played in one of those
He
three.
played for Atlanta, but I don't think he was drafted by Atlanta, was he? I think he was drafted by San Francisco. We're just naming all the teams. The Ravens, yeah, they drafted him too. Because remember he came out of retirement after like 2 years and played for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like, because Ray Lewis was like, "Hey, Prime, he's trying to play," and Prime looked at it as like, "Me play with Ray Lewis?"
So it was the Falcons. Falcons took him 5th overall, then San Francisco, then Dallas, then he played for Washington, and then he came out of retirement to play for the Ravens.
And it was like a 2 year. He was like off for 2 years. He was off for 2 years, and he just said, "Hey, let me get my bag with Ray, with Sugar and the boys." Like, I love Prime. Hey, Coach Prime, man, Coach Prime, taking over. Like I'm telling you, man. Like, was it Jackson State? Just watch. 2 years, they're gonna be D1. They're gonna be D1 Bowl Series, baby.
Well, yeah, I think they already are D1. I mean, dude, he flipped. Dude,
They're gonna be
he
FBS.
flipped
Sorry.
the number one high school player in the country when that happened. Like, damn, dude, like that. This kid said I could have went to Florida State and had all my games nationally televised. Nah, I'm gonna go play for the greatest corner ever because my coach just so happened to play the same position that I played, and he was the best to ever do it.
It's literally like we talked about earlier. In college, you can just be a great recruiter and get away with being a coach. That's not even saying that Dion's not a good coach, but it's just facts.
I think you do have to be a good coach to an extent, though, because I'm looking at Memphis, like college basketball. Memphis, I mean, motherfucking Penny.
Well, I meant football.
Oh, okay. Because I'm a college basketball. I mean,
Because
you don't know how many.
you could be
you don't know how many.
hey. If you're a good recruiter, you could be a good NBA coach. Hell, half of that job's recruiting anyway.
Because I'm looking at like, do you know how many college teams I've seen that like literally have like 3 McDonald's All-Americans, and then their team record is like 17-13, and it's like, bro, you have 3 NBA lottery picks on your team. How the hell did you not win at least 25 games this year? Like,
We'll never know.
That's part of the reason why you got to give props to Coach K. Was he manages those egos, and he actually, on top of having all that talent and making it gel, he is able to, win. Whereas, you have years where Kentucky has all that talent and it takes them a while to really start gelling. Coach K is one of those, he can get that talent and get it to gel right away, which is, props to him. He does a very poor job developing that talent, but makes it work.
Hey man, how insane would it be if Coach K went out winning a chip?
I'd stop watching college basketball because that means that this is Gonzaga's year. This is GU's year.
Oh man, what year isn't GU's year?
I don't know. 2006 was supposed to be the year, and then they were like, okay, and then 2015 was supposed to be the year, but they ran into Duke in the Elite Eight. And then 2017 was literally the actual year where they had a McDonald's All-American future NBA draft lottery pick as like the 7th man because that team was so damn deep. And that didn't work. And then last year they had two NBA lottery picks on the team. Didn't lose a game until the last one. And yeah, this is the year though. GU cuts down the nets this year. Can't wait for March Madness either, dude. March is right around the corner. I can't wait.
Just 15 days away. Actually, not even 15. It's a short month.
13.
Like 13 days. Damn. Well, guys, we're getting close to the end of this show. We got one more thing to talk about. And it is something that's very near and dear to my heart because I talked about the Nationals before. By the way, happy trails to Ryan Zimmerman officially retiring after 16 years uh, in Major League Baseball. Big shout out to Ryan Zimmerman, the greatest national, my favorite player, my favorite baseball player by far. The reason I watch pro baseball is Ryan Zimmerman, so happy trails to you, sir. And it seems like happy trails to Juan Soto, Andrew. So, hey, good news for you as a Mets fan. Nats ain't doing shit for the next at least 6 years. Juan Soto has rejected, just flat out said no to the Washington Nationals on an extension. Not going to say I didn't expect it, because I did, but part of me was like hoping, just like, come on, just let's see how you feel, like, hey, maybe the money is enough. Well, apparently the money wasn't enough in this case.
Nope.
So Nationals offered Juan Soto a 13-year, $350 million extension, and the outfielders said, nah. These are reports coming out now from before the lockout. The offer was made before the work stoppage and was intended to start the season, but did not include deferred money. Had it materialized, Soto would have earned an average salary of almost $27 million until the year 2034, until he turned 36. Not a bad bag, but nope, it's not happening. As a Nats fan, I am very sad because Juan Soto, I should say, was like the last bit of hope that I had at, like, okay, there is a light at the end of this tunnel for sure, because I mean, he's a great player, future MVP, I think. But this news means, like, okay, he's gonna get a bag, and it's just not gonna be in DC, and we're gonna draft okay for the next, 5-6 years, and hopefully down the line we'll build a team. But yeah, if you're a Nats fan, don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. Invest in season tickets for the 28 season, though. That's going to be a good season. Andrew, what's your reaction to this news about Juan Soto rejecting the Nats offer?
I'm not really surprised. I'm kind of pissed off, though, because I know my team's not going to go get him, but I know he's going to end up in New York. Just not my team. Yeah, pretty much.
New York or L.A.? It's one of those things that he's going to New York or L.A. or he's going to do
my team. He's not going to my New York team. I can tell you that. He's going to go to the one that's going to, and my New York team can afford to pay him. We just won't. He's going to go to the other one with the 200-foot fence in right field where he's going to hit 50 home runs a year.
Hey, man, who knows? He could pull a fast one and do. Who was it? Who's that guy from the Orioles? Manny Machado. No, Manny Machado. Remember Manny Machado? He's like, he took his bag to the West Coast, but he was like, I'm going to San Diego. I'm gonna make that my team. And it's like, immediately regretted that, because he's like, fuck, we suck.
Well, it was a slap in the face because he got traded to the Dodgers and literally was like, and then he literally told the Dodgers, fuck off. I'm gonna go get a bag, but I'm gonna go sign with your rival. And that was that.
The formerly Brooklyn Dodgers. Anyway, guys, what a show this has been. Andrew, as we move on from this show, you got any final takes, final thoughts, anything you want to get off your chest before we head out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. It was going back on my Gonzaga point. People, all right, listen, college basketball, I don't know if any of you follow college basketball and everything like that. I do, not as much as I used to. The hate for Gonzaga has to stop. The whole, they don't play nobody. The conference isn't this. Listen, it's not 1999. It's not even 2005, 2006 anymore. Okay. I understand their conference is not the strongest conference. It has gotten a lot better. But when you look at some of those teams and everything like that, when you look at a team, don't look at who it is they're playing against and use that against them. Look at who's on the team. Look at the names on the roster. Look at the talent. I don't care. You could take Duke and put them in the fucking NEC or the SWAC or any of like those, one of those BS conferences and everything like that gets a one bid team for the NCAA tournament. Okay. The fact of the matter is they still have talent. They still have NBA caliber talent on the team. That's what Gonzaga is. So don't sit here and don't follow this outdated narrative that just because their conference is weak, that's the only reason why Gonzaga is this. That's the only reason why they're this. Okay. They score 100 points a game, okay? I can understand if they're playing in that BS conference and, they have to grind out victories against some of like these, not as sought after teams, and they're, winning a 60-55 game or something like that. They're playing against these second tier teams, which are not even second tier teams. Cause actually, if you pay close attention to them, like they're beating big time teams, like the teams in their conference, but they're dropping 100 on every team. So they have a legitimate, lottery pick in Chet Holmgren, number one player. Andrew Nembhard's probably the best point guard in college basketball. Okay. They have 2 McDonald's All-Americans coming off their bench. One of them is Hunter Salas, who's going to be a stud next year. The other one is this kid, Nolan Hickman, who decommitted from Kentucky to actually go to GU. And Drew Timme is probably the best big man. Drew Timme is like he reminds me a lot of Tyler Hansborough, and that might not be the best NBA player. College basketball, though, he's a stud. He's unstoppable. And you know what? His career might end. He might go out the way Hansborough did as a champion and everything like that. So that's only my thing. That's my rant on Gonzaga. Is people got to stop with the Gonzaga hate. Stop hating on the West Coast Conference. I understand it's not the ACC. It's not the SEC. It's not one of those big time conferences and everything like that. But if you have a team that's getting the caliber of talent that Gonzaga is to go along with the caliber of talent they already have, no matter what conference you put them in, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to, and they've shown they can compete with big time teams. And that's my rant.
At some point, you got to look at the team it's constructed, how it plays against other really good teams, how it plays in big moments, and what they produce. Gonzaga does from time to time produce quality to good NBA talent. They, from time to time, do beat really good teams. Actually, when they're not playing in the national championship or the Final Four, they almost always beat good teams. That's just what they do. It's when they get to that national championship game, it just seems to be their kryptonite, right? But sure, we'll talk about that at some point further on. But the narrative that they're somehow inferior because they play in an inferior conference or whatever, it's stupid. It's just as stupid as the Boise State thing was 10 years ago when people were like, Boise State should never be in consideration for a national championship in college football. Dude, they churn out league, professional talent. They win games. They beat who they're supposed to beat. They beat all the good teams that want to actually schedule against them. What more do you want? Like, it's stupid. They're great players. Chet Holmgren is going to be the number 1 overall pick in all likelihood. Just stop it. The narrative is, if anyone's still pushing that narrative that Gonzaga is somehow not a quality team, or not even they're just not a top 10 college basketball program, I'm like, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Gonzaga? No, they're chilling. They are elite in college basketball. You can take that to the bank.
That's it.
Look at that. You and I actually agree on something.
That's it. I mean, that was pretty much, that was my rant. I saw somebody making comments about how, Gonzaga is unbearable to watch until the NCAA tournament. It's like, what are you talking about? Did you not watch any of their preseason? The Gonzaga versus Duke game earlier this season was like the most watched game in the last 10 years in college basketball. Like, what do you mean they're unwatchable? Like, they obviously, they're not playing against, the same. They're not in a big-time conference that'll have their own network. Like the ACC has the ACC network, SEC has SEC network. But I mean, when you look at the guys on the roster and everything, like, that's why I tell people, like, don't look at who they're playing against. Look at the names. Look at the guys on the roster. Like, look at, they got Chet Holmgren, number 1 high school player in the country, going to be a lottery pick. Andrew Nembhard, best point guard in the country. Andrew Nembhard was a starting point guard of Florida for 2 years before transferring to GU. Drew Timme was a high 4-star fringe 5-star recruit coming out, lacks athleticism, but around the basket, like I said, he reminds me a lot of Tyler Hansborough in just the way he plays and everything. And then all those other guys around them. Nolan Hickman decommitted from Kentucky. Nolan Hickman was a McDonald's All-American who decommitted from Kentucky to go play at GU. He's coming off the bench, and he's going to be a stud for them next year. They have a kid, Julian Strother, who was another one, ESPN top 50 recruit and everything like that. Didn't really play last year because of all the talent they had. Dude's coming on this year. Julian Strother can literally drop 25 a game if he really wanted to. Julian Strother would be probably the 1A on 98% of college basketball teams in the country. Like that's the kind of talent that these guys have on the roster. So don't sit here and look at the caliber of competition they're playing against and hold that against them. Look at the caliber of competition they're playing against and look at, how they're faring against it. I can understand if they were playing against second-tier competition and just barely squeaking by or something like that. But, they're making, like, the reason why people say, like, oh, they play in a JV conference. Well, did you ever think it was because maybe they're so good they make those teams look like JV teams? Why? If you watch the Big East, I went to a Big East school. You watch the Big East, GU is better than every team in the Big East. If you put GU in the current Big East, they would win the Big East. Like they're not going to put up, they would still put up a very gaudy record. Like, they would win the Big East just because talent-wise, as well as the coaching and the leadership and the experience they have, they'd run through the Big East. And the Big East is going to get 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. So just to put that in perspective, that's a way to look at Gonzaga.
You heard it here first, folks. That's how you look at Gonzaga. And that's going to, I think, do it for our show, Andrew. Any final thoughts before we move on?
Not really.
Okay, thank God. Guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave a 5-star review. Helps more people see our content. Be sure to follow us as well on Twitter at Real Take Sports. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Real Take Sports Talk. www.realtakesports.com. Follow Andrew at
no, you
in
don't.
brackets.
No, don't do that.
No,
Don't do that.
don't
Don't do
don't.
that. Don't do
Okay,
that.
don't follow Andrew. Follow me on Twitter though for my shitty sports takes at OMERQ Show. That's UMERQ Show on Twitter. And until next time, as always, be happy, be healthy, and keep it real.